Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beastly Talks. As always, I'm your host, Ian Helling, and I have a guest with me today, literally from the other side of the planet, all the way over in the United States of America and California specifically. It's Skye von Schweringen. Did I say that about right?
No, it's okay. No, it never does. It's okay.
I thought I was going to get it right.
No, it's okay. I appreciate the effort.
All right, so Skye, so I figured I'd just give a little bit of an intro of why we're talking to each other, and then I want to hear who you are and how you got into dogs and all of that. But basically what happened is pretty early on in me starting Beastly Talks, you sent me an email and basically said, hey, been listening to your podcast. I really enjoy it. I'm currently doing a degree in something. I want you to talk about that because I can't remember what that was. And you basically asked if you could ask me some questions about some behavioral stuff and technical definition, etc., etc. And I thought that was very nice. So we started a WhatsApp group and we've been chatting for 6 months-ish now?
I think so.
Something like
some
that.
amount
Yeah.
of time. Yeah.
And so that's kind of why we're having this conversation now, because you've got a very interesting background and you are into the behavior side of things on a very different kind of level than I am, I guess, and in a very different setting than I generally work in. And so I think this is going to be interesting to hear from you. But let's start off by tell us your backstory. Who are you? How did you get into dogs? Also, mention that you have a Malinois, and please tell everyone why you hate yourself.
Oh, I will. I love her, but God, yeah. So my name is Skye van Sweringen. Van S is also fine. No one ever says it right. It's okay. Growing up, I guess, kind of like backstory. Growing up, we were pretty poor, and I was homeless for about 4 years, from ages 9 to 13, and then I was in foster care from when I was 13 to 14, and so going into high school, I hadn't gone to school for 4 or 5 years, and so going into 8th grade, I had only gone to first, second, and 3rd grade. So then I went into high school, and I had barely gotten back into life. I wasn't around kids the time I was homeless, so I was just around adults. So I had a very different way of speaking, and I was around not the best crowd of adults either. So that definitely set me up for the life that I had. Um, Luckily, when I was sophomore in high school, I started dating my now fiance, and we've been together 7 years this year. And then so I'm 22. But I graduated high school during COVID, a little bit towards the end of COVID. But I had a 4.6 GPA, and I was everyone was like, oh, you should do a doctorate or something like that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go into biochemistry. And then I was in college for that, and I was working as a barista bartender. And one of my clients, one of my regulars was like, what the hell are you going to do with that degree? And I'm like, that's a damn good question. So I went home and I dropped out. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I really love animals. Kind of a sidebar, when we were homeless, I found a dog on the side of the road that I basically took into our car because we were living out of our car at the time. And I was like, this is mine now. And she didn't have a home. She was just one of the feral dogs. And we named her Madison. And she is a white little fluffy thing now. She's still alive. But she was my baby. And then once I dropped out of college, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. My mom was a hairstylist. I thought being a dog groomer would be cool. So then I went and I worked at a corporate chain for a little bit, and I started as a bather, and then I became a dog groomer. And then I was like, I could do more, because at corporate there's a lot of different rules and different things. And I didn't feel like I was really trained on behavior, but I was not really sure what to do, but I was like, I want to do something in this line of life. And then I started volunteering at the animal shelter and grooming the dogs at the animal shelter, and I really liked that. So I quit, and then I started my own dog grooming business on the side, and I've been kind of keeping that up. So now I own Sky's the Limit Pet Services, which is mostly grooming, along other things. But then I got a full-time job at the animal shelter, the nonprofit where I live, and I really started getting into behavior during that. I worked with the behavior specialist that was working at our other location for several weeks. I started talking to a lot of local trainers, different trainers, everywhere from like fear fee to balance to like mainly adversives, and just kind of absorbing everything. And then I found a certification that I really liked the base of. So it's the CPDTKA, which is, I think it's Certified Professional Dog Trailer Knowledge Assessment. So that's the test that I
Right.
took. And then I
Yep.
passed. And so now I have a title next to my name, which is super cool.
Nice.
But yeah, while I was working at Pet or I can't say the name, but
Sure.
while I was working at the corporate place for dog grooming, um, which everything has pet in its name now, so it's not that important. But
Sure.
when I was working there, um, my fiance and I, we were just dating still, and he was like, "We should get a dog," and I was like, "I would love a dog. We should get a dog." And so we went to the shelter, and I really wanted like a small, like kelpie slash cattle dog mix sort of thing, like that vibe. I really liked the little like crackhead energy small medium dog, and he wanted a Malinois
crystal
puppy.
meth crystal meth raccoons, as they call them.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I wanted that, and I wanted an older dog. I wanted, like, 5 to 7, maybe older. Like, I wanted, like, slower in life, but, like, still got some years left as, like, my first dog, like, officially mine, as an adult, I guess. And he was like, "We want a Malinois puppy because they're so cool. Look at their police dog videos." And so I was like, "No." And so we went to the shelter, and we were walking through the kennels, and this was, like, before I worked at the shelter, and we walked through a bunch of them, and we walked by this one Malinois, and I, like ooh, this was it's so pathetic, it's so, like, Pinteresty, like, white girl of me, but I, like, crouched down, and I, like, put my hand on her kennel, and she put her paw up right next to, like, my hand and did, like, paw through the kennel, and I started bawling, bro. Like, I was in the hallway of this loud ass kennel, like, crying, and I was like, "Babe, I need her." And yeah, so that was the day that my life really ended. I that was the day that we actually didn't adopt her that day. I actually was going on a trip for 3 weeks, and so I couldn't get her until I got back. And so as soon as I got back, literally the day that we got back, I was like, "Oh my god, she's still there." And so I went and I got her, and now her name is Adeline. That was the name that the shelter gave her, and she was found as a stray. She was about 3 years old that they estimated, so who knows? But she has a scar around her neck that's about an inch thick of what they think is, like, rope burn. She did have milk when they got her, but they fixed her. Um, and so she had definitely had a litter, at least one, probably more. And she was found in a really crappy area. And yeah, so she's my demon child. She can climb ladders, she can open doors. She knows how when her water bowl is low, sometimes she'll turn on the sink because she wants her water filled. Yeah, she's my little terrorist, but I love her, but please don't ever get one. They don't need it. You don't need one. Literally
No,
get anything else.
no, there is. Look, I have said this many times on the show, and I stand by the fact that no one should own a Malinois ever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a special interest dog, that's for sure.
Yeah. They're really great for some people, but God, you have to be like, like just to like kind of preface, like the first year I had her, I probably spent like 5 to 10 grand on this dog. Like she's spoiled. She has like 3 Carhartt jackets that are like $80 a piece, and like she's like all fatted out. You know how many collars this girl has? You know how many leashes she has? She's like bougie as shit. And we've tried like when we got her, we were like, "Oh, these dog breeds usually like personal protection. Let's take a class." She hated it. We tried fucking like rally. She hated it. She was like, "I don't want to pay attention for that long. I have a broken one. Mine's like it has the crazy, but it doesn't have like the need to please you like a normal one does. It's just like, no, fuck you, fuck everything." But she cuddles and she likes kids. So yeah, that's
Okay,
I
that's
mean,
pretty
that's the
good.
best thing. When we got her, they were like, "Oh, yeah, she's great with other dogs, and she doesn't have any prey drive or anything," and I was like, "Really?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, she does great with the chickens, she does great with everything." We got her the first day we got her, she attacked 3 other dogs and broke out of where we were living and went to the neighbor's, ranch that had a bull and tried to fight it. So that was a lie. And I was like, "Well, I got her. I can't ever take her back. This is my child now." And yeah, so that's my thing. She's like probably 6-ish now. But yeah, she's my little
Y-
terrorist monkey.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Oh man,
Yeah.
it is. They are a lot of dog. That is
Yeah.
for sure. Okay,
No one
so
needs one.
no, no, I agree. I agree. But
Mhm.
so talk a little bit about this certification thing that you did. So obviously, things are very different from here in Australia, where I am, where there's
Mhm.
like 3 nationally recognized schools, I guess, which is like they run like anywhere from 10 to 15-month courses, and then you get a national qualification. And you have to have a national qualification in most places to be able to use aversive tools, for example.
Hmm.
So anyone can call themselves a dog trainer, but unless you have that qualification, you can't use an electric collar, for example, here in Victoria, where I am. So what did this certification involve? Was it more on the force free side of things? Was it more of a balance type thing? What actually did you learn, I guess, and what was the final exam to get your qualification?
Yeah, so the one that I took, it was just the knowledge assessment. So you have to get the knowledge assessment before you're able to get the knowledge and skill assessment. So I'm working towards that right now. But America works a lot differently where it's like so unregulated, where there's no rules on anything. Like someone can buy a shot collar off of Temu and be like, "I'm a dog trainer, guys," and like slap it on a chihuahua and call it good. There's no laws against that. It's awful. Um, Shot collars and prong collars are sold at any pet store, like anywhere here, and it's always the cheaper ones too.
Yeah.
It's awful. But yeah, so there are schools that there's like a few that are like really recognizable. ABC is probably a big one. It's Animal Behavioral College.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's yeah, so like that's one of like the bigger ones, but there's a few. A lot of people that I know that are dog trainers more have like the certifications. So like it's not really some of them do have classes that you can take that's like 10 months or 6 months. The one that I did, so you have to be dog training for about 3 years. All your experience has to be within that 3-year range. I believe it's 2 or 300 hours that you have to log, and then you do have to work with someone that already has the certification under them for like a set period of time in order to like have them sign off that you actually worked with them. And like it's very hands-on, which I liked. Like I didn't have to spend more money to like take a class or like be at a place for like another while, which wouldn't have minded doing that. But because where I was at my life currently, I had a lot of people that were readily available that could help me with it without having to take a class because I was already around like that group. So I didn't feel the need to like, oh, I have to drive somewhere or like, oh, I have to take an online class when I have these resources literally right in front of me. So I went through that, and then the test itself is like think it's a little under $500. And then you just take the test, and it's you have like practice tests that you can take, and then if you pass, you pass. If you fail, you fail. You can take it again the next year. But they do the test 2 times a year. So I actually got the signature of the person that I needed the like right at the cutoff time for the testing period. So I had to wait 6 more months to take it. So, which sucked.
Yep.
Yeah, so then I was just, like, studying more, and that's kind of when I reached out to you because one of your videos actually popped up when I was, like, searching keywords into podcasts because I was kind of confused on some of the verbiage, and I watched the video. I'll have to look up which one it was, but I watched one of your videos and it, like, had, like, the vocab words that I was confused about, and your examples really helped, and so I actually use some of the examples that you gave to some of my coworkers now to kind of help understand certain things because it helped me and it helps them. So that was kind
Yep.
of
Good.
why I reached out to you and like how I found you. But I was just looking up keywords and you popped up and it was like you and like 2 other channels had it. And I was like, sick, I found one.
Right.
And then you responded and I'm like, hell yeah.
Yep, fair enough, fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
that's good though. No, I look, one of the things that I find a lot of, like, both trainers and owners struggle with is trying to find a way of relating to how the dog perceives the world.
Mhm.
And my career before becoming a dog trainer, I was an advertising creative. So my job was taking shit boring information and try and make it fun and interesting and easy to understand. And so I guess that's where I've kind of got a little bit of my explanations and that kind of stuff from. Just but yeah, it's like you say, it makes a big difference when people can see it from the perspective of the dog, because most
Mhm.
people think that, well, they just kind of assume that dogs think the way that we do, and they try to rationalize with their dogs, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't actually work with the dog. They need it a little bit clearer than that. um but that's cool. All right, so we do
Oh,
know
going
that.
back on the
Yeah, sure.
question, sorry, I didn't answer part of the questions that you asked. It
Oh, sure, go.
was it like fear-free based or balance-based? So the certification that I have, it's technically they advertise it as like LIMA based, but the test itself is like mostly on fear-free stuff. Like they don't really ask too many questions about like shock collars, prong collars, and stuff. But it's basically in like the learning of it. It's like it's the humane hierarchy. So it's like the you want to do everything else and then that and like you only want to do like prong collars or shock collars and like that kind of like more adversive tools if nothing else is working and the it's kind of like if the disease is worse than the treatment versus if the treatment is worse than the disease, like how
Hmm.
aggressive do you want to be, like is it manageable, like if this person can manage it then there's no need to like do more adversive steps, but if they can't or if it's not something that can be managed safely, then are you 100% sure you can't be fear free? Okay, then you can. But it's a lot of like
Yeah, sure, sure.
you don't want to, but you still can sort of, which I mean that kind of spoke to me more than like cuz I worked with trainers that like first time meeting a dog would just be like basic manners, prong collar, and it's like that didn't really speak to me as much, but the people that I worked with the certification and how it was explained to me at the time that like resonated more with me and how I understand it and how I take in that information is kind of how I am going to work with the animals. So I'm not against those
Yep.
tools, but it's just, that's the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
certification that I have.
And it is really interesting because if you look at the spectrum all the way from kind of positive only, force free, all the way to compulsion training with balance, which I would say is in the middle, um, it's kind of just what you go to first, right?
Mhm.
And again, but that also depends on what kind of issues the dog is having. So a lot of the
Mhm.
dogs that come to me, they've been to 3, 4, 5, 6 trainers before, some heavy-handed trainers, some force-free trainers, and no one's getting any result. And so by the time the dog comes to me, I usually start with aversive tools because I
Mhm.
have to just cut through to the dog and go like, hey, actually, I need you to understand me super quickly so that we can start playing together. Right.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on what you're doing. Like if I'm meeting a puppy, I don't put a slip lead on the puppy, right? I wouldn't put a prong collar on a puppy because you're like, well, we don't need to, right?
Mhm.
But again, I'm also not opposed to racing dogs with pressure because I think that makes them so much more resilient and it makes their worldview so much clearer and sharper. And that I see your little miss is trying to scratch something through the door.
She knows how to open the door too, which this is the stupidest thing. So we talked about it a little bit before you started recording, but she has a
Yeah,
wobbler
yeah.
and she shoved it underneath the door because the door has like, because I'm in a trailer right now. And so the doors have like a foot gap underneath them. And she can crawl under the door. She also knows how to open the door, but she shoved her wobbler on my side and is now like, Mom, please, I can't reach it. Please, I'm dying
Uh,
of hunger. And I'm like, girl, calm down. Like you this I don't even think the wobbler has food in it right now. She just likes to play with it. But she's like,
yeah, yeah,
"Mom,
fair enough.
please. I'm poor. I'm hungry. I'm starving. You abuse me." Girl, like you act
uh,
like I know you can't open that. Like
uh,
the second I don't want you to. Oh my god, whatever. Anyway, she's
uh,
fine.
that's all good. That's all good. All right, so let's get stuck into the shelter. So you started volunteering at the shelter, and then you progressed to working there.
Yeah.
Like, what was the progression there, and what does an average day look like for you? So I know
Yeah,
you're
so
not in like a county shelter, which is what you were mentioning before, which is like the government run shelters, I guess.
mhm.
But you're in a not for profit private shelter, which has a little bit more leeway in terms of what they take and what they don't take. But yeah, tell us like kind of how you progress from being a volunteer to being an employee and what your average day looks like.
Yeah, so I actually started volunteering for the county shelter because they take a lot more volunteers and like that sort of thing, and they're always open for volunteers because they are so overrun. So the shelter at there's 2 shelters in my area that, like, are, like, the main 2, and I work at one of them, and I volunteer at the other one. But the county shelter is government funded, so they have to do what the government tells them, and so if the government tells them, "No, you can only have 5 employees with these 120 dogs, plus these 20 chickens, plus these 40 cats," then that's all that they can do. They can't hire more, they can't, like, do anything. They do take donations, but it's at a much smaller scale. And so they have a lot more they have a lot less barrier for entering for, like, volunteering and stuff because they need the help so much, so they're just like, "Yeah, come on in, walk these dogs," and, like, you could literally walk in there and be like, "Hi, I wanna take a dog for a walk," and they'll just, like, give you the dog, and, like, you could just go and take it. Because a lot of times they don't have time to take these dogs out. Like, it's a lot. Um so I was volunteering there dog grooming, and, they would call me for, like, the dogs that were, like, really matted and, like, really in bad shape, so I would, like, go there and, like, shave them down, and then, like, that's kind of when I was like, "Oh, shit, these dogs are, like, cool." Like, these dogs don't have problems as much as I thought that they would. Because you hear, like, "Oh, it's a shelter dog, it's gonna be evil," and I'm like, "This dog is actually, like, chill." Like, the pampered Maltese that I get every 6 weeks tries to eat my face, but this dog is, like, chill on my table, letting me clipper its, like, butt, and it's, like, cool with that. I'm like, "This is awesome." And so then I was like, I wanted to help more, and I love doing the shelter work, but at the time that they weren't hiring, so I applied for the other shelter in town, which a friend of mine actually worked there and referred me to them, and I actually knew her from, like, the, like, bite work class and stuff for, like, the personal protection work because I took my dog there because I was an idiot and was like, "Oh, she's a Belgian Malinois." And I was like, "Maybe she'll like this." And then we got there and he was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." So we just stayed for the class and we just, like, watched, and she was one of the girls there, and she was like, "Oh, I have this dog that, like, is also getting into it was also a rescue, and also I work for this dog or for this shelter. You should come work there. They're hiring." And so then I applied and I got the job. Yippee. But I started as animal care, so I was, like, taking care of the dogs and, like, the cats because we only have dogs and cats at my shelter, and it's a nonprofit, so, they only take, like, a certain number of animals that the staff is able to care for, and it's a lot more closed down, which I'm very lucky that I work for a place like that because I mean, I've applied at the county shelter and I've worked with them so much, like, they do make more money, but the amount of stress and, like, turmoil that it takes on you is insane. Like, there's, like, 5 dogs to a kennel sometimes, and that's insane. Um, but, the shelter that I work at, we can like, they make decisions on euthanasia a lot more, and, like, they have a lot more of, like, resources when it comes to stuff, but also they are fear-free, so there's a limitation on a lot of the things. But I recently, with my certification and, like, my interest in behavior, I got the job of the behavior specialist at my work, which not a lot of shelters even have that. So, again, very lucky that mine does. But I applied for the position, I got it, so now I'm kind of part of that conversation and able to say, I guess, have more say on, like, whether I think an animal, which I hate that it comes to that, but, like, I don't like to play God, but it's kind of like, "Hey, I kind of have to advocate for this animal's well-being, and they don't have the voice to say, like, 'Hey, I'm self-harming,'" and, like, or things like that. So, being able to kind
Mm.
of be that for them, which I will say, I think it goes back a lot to, like, me being homeless and me being in foster care. Like, this dog is now was running on the streets and is now in a kennel with a bunch of other things around it and with new people that it doesn't know, and, like, building that trust. It's like, well, no crap, I was in that position at one point, and I was terrified. I can't even imagine what you're feeling because 'cause I'm not the same species that you, and you don't speak my language. So, it's a lot,
Mm.
but I love it. I love my job.
Yeah, yeah, good, good. No, that's good to hear. And look, you touched on talking about euthanasia there, and so
Mhm.
obviously, and we talked about this before we started recording, but the place that you work in is not a no-kill shelter, which
Yeah.
is becoming increasingly popular. And I mean, I have my own opinions on the idea of a no-kill shelter, but what are your thoughts? Is it in any way, form, or shape good for the animals, or is it in fact more detrimental to them? What's your
Um,
opinion?
I think a lot of the time the like, term "no kill" kinda gets tossed around a little bit early because a lot of the places that people deem as, like, a no-kill shelter or even advertise themselves as a no-kill shelter aren't actually a no-kill shelter. Like, they still euthanize. It's just they have higher barriers for that, for a dog to be, like, having to be euthanized, and usually it's, like, several bites or, like, it's, like, major health concerns and the dog's been suffering. Um, but I think it depends on, like, different everywhere that I've talked to, no, like, shelter has, like, the same, like, I guess, rules about it or, like, the same outlook about it. I don't know what the right terminology is there, but, like, the same criteria, I guess, for it. Like, there's shelters, there's rescues, there's sanctuaries, and a lot of the places that you see are like, "We're no kill." They're no kill because they don't take the dogs with problems, and so they don't feel the need that they have to, and if they do take a dog with problems, it's like, "Oh, it barks at other dogs," but it's kind of just, like, frustration reactivity, it's not, like, actual, like, aggression or anything like that, so then they don't have, like, the need to really euthanize that much. Um, and a lot of places, even if they are no kill and they do take in a lot of animals, you'll see videos of it online and stuff too. It's really, really readily available, but these dogs, most of them, especially, like, the overrun no kill shelters, are just in a cage all day, every day until they die. Like, there's so because they don't have room to make more room for the more dogs that are coming in because they can't make those decisions, and a lot of them just sit, especially, like, the sanctuaries or the rescues that people are like, "I can't take myself to euthanize my pet, like, I want them to live out their wonderful, beautiful life," so they bring them to a sanctuary where they're most likely not going to be adopted because their barriers for adoption are so high, and they have multiple bites on their record or whatever, and so this dog is going to spend years in a kennel, lucky if the staff can walk it. Like,
Mm,
it's not fair a lot of the time, and I think a lot of
sure.
people don't realize, like, if you don't it sucks. Like, it's not fair. If it was a perfect world, this wouldn't be an option because it wouldn't need to be, but we don't live in a perfect world, and, like, puppies are born every single day, kittens are born every single day, like, people are breeding doodles and oodles and fluffy Frenchies and stuff. So when the family dog comes to the shelter and they have 50 kennels and they have over 100 dogs and they don't have physical room for the animals anymore, some of them have to go off the other end of the conveyor belt in a way. And it sucks to say that, but it's just the world that we live in right now. And yeah, it's
And
awful, but
Yeah, and I think it is the nature of things as well because dogs who go kennel crazy. I personally, I don't know about you, but if I had the choice between being locked up for the rest of my life or just dying today, I can pretty much tell you I'd rather die today than be locked up for the rest of my life because that is going to drive you insane. It's going to deprive you of so much, so many things. And again, one of the things that we talked about before this, which is funny because you brought it up and I had the exact same thing written down, but good dogs generally don't end up in shelters. Dogs end up in shelters because they have behavioral issues, because they're too much dog for the person. Um, and I mean, I've seen the odd dog where maybe a family member has died and no one else in the family can take them, and weird things like that happen. But at the end of the day, dogs in the shelter are usually there because they're problem dogs. And if you don't have a way of rehabilitating them and getting them out of there, then locking them in a corner for the rest of their lives is just a horrible thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely believe there are fates worse than death, and that is one of them. Like it's awful to see, and it's not fair. And I mean, the even the shelter that I work at, we do enrichment every single day. Every single dog gets at least 3 walks a day if they are consenting to it and they're wanting to walk. Like there's volunteers that come in that spend time with the animals. We have vet staff every day of the week, and we are lucky to have that because there's some shelters that have a vet that comes by maybe once a week or once every other week to do surgery. And, like, there's dogs that are suffering, like, there's some dogs, especially, like, that come in for, like, legal reasons to the county shelter that I live near that, like, they legally, we can't touch them, and so they can have, like, awful wounds, and we can't do anything, like, it's the shelter life is not pretty, it's not glamorous, it's like the ghetto of the animal world, and I think a lot of people that say, like, "Oh, we're no kill," like, or I could never take my animal to that place, or I can't even imagine like rehoming my animal or having to take it to the shelter. That is awesome that you have the lifestyle that you can keep your animal. But that's not the reality for a lot of people. And then also once they get there, like, having to kind of go kennel crazy, and, like, a lot of dogs don't do well like that. Like, a Belgian Malinois in a shelter, like, when I see that on the intake schedule, I'm always, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, "Fuck." Like, I don't know how long you're gonna be here for. You're not gonna kennel well. Like, there's some dogs that do better than others. And, I mean, I've had some dogs that go to the shelter that are, like, living their best life, and they're here for, like, months, and they're, like, they love it. Like, this is the perfect life for that dog specifically, and it is rare and few and far between, but there's some that do, I don't wanna say enjoy it, but, like, get used to it enough to, like, find, like, happiness in it. But majority of the time, it's, like, when you're cooped up in that state, especially because they don't have the I think a lot of people humanize dogs way too much, and, like, yes, you are putting this animal there in a cage or whatever, or in a kennel, and it has the potential to be adopted. That animal doesn't know that there's an end to that. In that current animal state, that is their day to day. That is all that they know. So if they don't like that, they're going to respond with behaviors that might not be satisfactory. And it can be the sweetest dog. Like, we've had so amazing dogs that just one day they just bite a staff member and then they start growling as soon as everyone like comes up to their kennel space and they can't be walked, and they stop eating and they start like biting at the walls or they start chewing on themselves, and it's like it's not fair, and it sucks to be able to see that. But
Mm.
I mean, at the end, like, no one really talks about the ugly, but it gets ugly sometimes, and I mean, a lot of the times, even with, like, the euthanasia, I hate the ones where it's like, it's a fixable problem, but it's not fixable because they're at the shelter. Like, if they
Mm.
were in a home and, like, reactivity in a home with other dogs, it like, having the stability of a day-to-day life with someone consistent and, like, sleeping in bed with a person or being in a kennel in the same house and, like, having, like, a routine gives them so much more stability to deal with their emotions versus you're in a shelter, you get out maybe a few times a day if you're lucky. Every time you see another dog, you get really excited and you start barking, and that turns to screaming, that turns to frustration. And now every time you see a dog, you turn aggressive in a sense. And like, people see that and it's like, we can't adopt that out because it's gonna show that in the public, and it's like, what happens if we drop that leash? Like, and there's some like, places that don't make those decisions, and I mean, I feel like sometimes my work does, like, make those decisions a little bit early, and it's like, but what is it's kind of like, I can't tell the future, I can't tell you if this dog is going to bite another dog, and, like, what is the risk of, waiting until that happens? It's really complicated, and it's a lot of, like, really big questions, and not a lot of people and this should have been, like, a big trigger warning before I started the spiel, but it's like,
No,
this
no,
is
that's fine.
ugly. Like, it's
Yeah.
ugly, and it's a lot of, like, it sucks, but I mean, I seeing the dogs that, like, go through behavior treatment and, like, are able to make it out of the other side, and, like, sometimes they go through just a week of, like, "I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this," and then being able to be like, "No, it's okay. Like, let's do more enrichment, like, let's go offsite, let's play with some more dogs, like, let's give you some time in my office to decompress from your kennel for a bit," and being able to have those outlets to have the dog like, "Okay, it is okay. I just got a little excited," or, like, "I just got a little big feeling,"
Yeah.
and having them reset is really nice, but not a lot of shelters have that, and I think a lot of people forget that it's not a home. Like, this dog is
No,
not in a home. This is not
no, no.
stability, and so we don't have the luxury of being like, "Oh my god, you're gonna be fine," because this dog doesn't know its outcome.
Yeah. No, and that's a really good point because dogs live in the now. They don't really prepare for a future or predict a future
Yeah.
in any way, form, or shape. So they kind of just go like, "This is the situation I'm in, and this is the situation I have to deal with." And yeah, the I guess the lack of stimulation, the lack of just being able to be a normal dog, can tip anyone over the edge at the end of
Mhm.
the day. Um, Now, you did say one thing really interesting that I want to talk to you a little bit about, and that is if the dog consents to going for a walk. Now,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew that was
I,
gets brought up. Yeah.
I personally do not believe dogs have the ability to consent to anything, but
Mhm.
we can go a little bit deeper on that if you want to. But what is your like? What's the I guess protocol for that? How do you determine whether a dog is consenting to going for a walk or not? What do you look at, and what happens if the dog just sits in the back of the kennel shaking? Like, what is it then just taken off the walking protocol, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. So, I say I've heard this in your podcast, and I was like, "I know I'm gonna say it," and he's gonna be like, "Wait, stop it." But, so it kind of I guess it's like it's not the same consent as, like, a human being, obviously, because we have, like, the brain span to, like, understand what that means. I do agree that, like, not a lot of dogs can consent in, like, the human aspect. There's just not a better word that I can kind of come up with it, I guess. So, what I look for is during potty walk time. So we do potty walks at my work, thankfully, and we're able to do that. And so I'll walk to the dog's kennel. And if the dog, especially if it's a new intake, usually they don't want to walk for the first like day or two and they don't trust you. They don't know you. And they're like, hell no, get away from me, bitch. And I'm like, I get it. I don't know you either. I would not want to touch you either. That's fine. And I mean, they're like on the, like, sometimes they hide. Sometimes if it's like an older dog, I'm like, come on. And sometimes they just don't want to get up. So it's basically we say like consent at my work, but it's basically don't put a slip lead on this dog and drag it out of the kennel. Like that's not what you want to do. That's kind of what I mean. Versus if a dog is like hesitant but like doesn't really know what like the walk means or is like scared of everything, I'm still going to try to, like, take it out, but we're gonna go on baby steps. So, instead of I'm not gonna, because we use slip leashes at my work, and we have martingales on almost every dog and stuff, and it's a big shelter thing because that is, like, the easiest to not escape out of, and it's just, like, escape prevention, really, but I do like, some dogs do find that, like, super adversive, which I totally understand. And so I usually try to put, like, if they let me handle them, like, a different collar on them, if they prefer a harness. Some dogs come in with certain items that they are more affiliative to and, like, know, like, certain words, like, "Let's go for a walk," and they know what that means, especially if they come from a home where they were walked. Um, but basically, I guess if the dog is willing, like, if the dog is soliciting attention, if the dog is, like, going up to you and being like, "Yes, I wanna go," then I would proceed with that. But if the dog is, like, on its first, like, day or 2, and it's just, like, in bed or it's, like, hiding in a corner, then I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna let you chill because your cortisol level is way too high. You don't know me. I don't know you." We do medicate at my work, so we do give trazodone. We don't over-medicate, like, it's not like the dog doesn't know where it is. It's just a slow dose of, the sedative, so it's like an anti-anxiety at that point, and it just kind of takes the edge off, and for a lot of the dogs, it does help them, like, overcome, like, themselves, I guess, because a lot of the dogs in the shelter overthink, like, they only sit in a box, so all they can do is think, and so when they see a person for the first time in hours, and this person is coming at them with a rope and is like, "Come here!" That can be a lot. So I don't really blame them. But if it's like day 2 or 3 and I'm like, "Okay, you're, like, still growling at me," then I'll sit outside their kennel, or if they're a small dog, I'll sit in their kennel and they're not showing signs that they're gonna try to attack me, and we'll do some treats, we'll do some games. I usually will put notes in my computer or on my phone while I'm with them and just, like, slowly building that trust, and it takes a few days sometimes, to kinda get them to, like, crawl into your lap or, like, be able to take treats from you, and then once I'm able to get the leash over their head, sometimes I get it over their head and it's like they pull, and especially on a slip, they'll, like, feel the pressure and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm on fire." And it's a lot of, like, I hate to say it, but it's like it's a thing in the grooming world too. It's like when a dog's about to fall off a table, sometimes you kinda, like, you put your hand underneath where they're gonna fall, but you kinda have to let them so they know that there's an edge there. It's kind of like, "But did you die? Like, you're okay. You pulled and you didn't die. I know that was really scary, but you're overcoming it." And it's a lot of baby steps, but it's a lot of, like, you're still able to tell the dog no. You're still able to, like, have them figure it out. And it is stressful, but I mean, you can't avoid stress in the shelter. Like, it's not an environment where you really can, even though, like, it is marketed as, like, fear-free. I say as fear-free as possible. Like, there's only so much that you can do.
Sure.
But basically working with the animal, trying to get it, like, we call it leash conditioning, but if they don't, like, if I'm able to pick up a small dog and take it to a yard where it can, like, run around and be free, then Imma do that, especially if it's not used to being on a leash. And a lot of the time, once they're, like, first have their walk and they're like, "Oh shit, there's a world outside my kennel. Holy crap." Then it's like the next walk comes so much easier, and it's like, I don't have to spend 20 minutes in your kennel, I can spend 2. And then it's, "Holy shit, I met this person and they gave me food and they didn't hit me. Oh my god." And then the next person they meet, "Oh my god, this person also gave me food. Holy shit, people are good." And it's like kinda building on that, but it always starts with, I think the world's gonna kill me," and it's like you do have to kinda push and be like, "No, it's okay." There are some times though where it's like, which this is more of like quality of life kind of question that pops in sometimes. You'll hear that a lot with shelter. It's like, if it's like day 10 and the dog is, like, still cowering in a corner, not eating, like, peeing and pooping itself, and is, like, so fearful, then that's kind of a question where we're like, "Is it worth it to kind of push this dog? Because it's obviously not having a very good time." And so sometimes I'll, like, especially in the scenario, because we have a dog that was like that last week, um, she didn't go on a walk for, like, 6 days, and she was, like, peeing and pooping where she was, and I was like, "You know what? We're not doing this." And so I grabbed a towel, and I put it over her, and she let me, and I was like, "Are you cool? Are you tolerating this? You're not trying to bite me?" I kind of, like, poked her head out a little bit, and I pet her a little, and she was just, like, frozen in fear, so she's, like, tolerating my existence, but she's like, "I don't fucking like this," and I'm like, "I don't blame you." So I just, like, after a while, I, like, just scooped her up, and I just put her in my office, and she feigned sleep for about the first few hours, and then she actually fell asleep, and I think that girl slept for the first time in, like, 6 days, and then I was able to walk her, like, 2 days later. So sometimes it is like, "I'm gonna really push you, and I am so sorry because you don't know why I'm doing this, but I promise it's for your better health." And it's a lot of, like, I hope this outweighs the cost that
Yeah.
it's doing to you right now.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And so, like, it's it's annoying that people automatically think aversives are a bad thing for dogs, because at the end of the day, aversives are just part of life. It's not
Mhm,
something we can choose to not experience. Fear is not something you can. I very much doubt anyone ever in the history of anything living has gone an entire life without experiencing some kind of fear, right? And so my approach to it is that aversives are there to help you learn. It's there to fast forward your learning progress. And fear is something to learn to live with and control to a certain degree. And again, I think predictability, we talk a lot about predictability when we talk about dogs and dog training, and predictability is kind of something they have lost when they're in the shelter. So a dog that has been living with its owners, and they knew the layout of the house. They knew roughly what time they'd go for a walk, right? They had some kind of predictability. Removal of that predictability is usually what creates excessive fear. Because if you can't predict what comes next, if you can't predict how to avoid an aversive, and again, this is what, like, when it comes to terms like punishment, what we always talk about is contingency. If you punish a dog just willy-nilly, like you put an e-collar on them and just every 10 seconds you press the button for no reason while the dog's not doing anything, of course that's going to produce a ton of fear, right? Because there's not any contingency to it. The dog doesn't know what's happening and it doesn't know how to avoid it, right? Punishment is learning the same way that reinforcement is, but in punishment you learn to avoid, whereas in reinforcement you learn to do. That's
mhm.
it. Like, that's the whole difference. But yeah, people make such a big deal about aversives and how bad it is, and that kind of just is a huge problem in my opinion, because it very often stops progressing the dog forward. A lot of dogs that we see that have been trained with positive only and force free, they tend to stagnate because it gets to a point where the dog goes, I'm not doing this anymore, especially if you don't have treats. And you go like, well, at that point, you have two options. You can either give up or you can go, I'm sorry, but you have to do this and move them through it. But obviously, that is very different in a shelter situation versus what I deal with when people contact me to go, hey, we have issues with our dog. Please come help us, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of, like there's definitely some dogs where it's like, we'll get a dog in that's, like, really rude, jumpy, mouthy, and it's like, so much energy, and, like, yes, like, if you had a trainer come to your home and get this done, like, this would have ended so much differently, but now it's in the shelter, and now we're also it's like, I can't even work on that behavior because it's not showing me that behavior because it doesn't know me, and it's terrified in a kennel, and so some people I took in this one dog, and it was, like, a bull terrier mix, and it was, like it got brought in because it was, like, rude, jumpy, mouthy, and it was, like, mouthing at people's faces, like, it would jump up and, like, mouth it hadn't bitten anyone, but it would just, like, face muzzle punch your face, and I took him in, and he was, like, terrified, and they were like, "He, like, hardly is able to be walked, like, he's such a big baby," and I'm like, "Girl, give him, like, 2 weeks," and sure enough, 2 weeks later, they're like, "He needs an impulse control plan, he's jumping off the walls, he hit me in my face today," and I'm like, "No shit, he's comfortable now." Like, it takes time, and, I mean, then it's like, now I'm at this point, cool, you've been in the shelter for 2 weeks, now I have to work on this, and it's worse because you're in a shelter and you're not home anymore, and it's like, all of that, and thankfully, I mean, with enough training and stuff, he was like, "Oh, I can't do that," and we're like, "Yeah, that's rude." And I mean, I think a lot of, like, people that don't really work because, like, I do work where it's fear-free. I think people have a misconception of, like, because 'cause I've heard it from, like, my coworkers too, that it's like, "Oh, fear-free is, like, non-punishment based." And that is such a bad like, that no. It's it goes a lot of, like, positive reinforcement and negative punishment work so much together that we do negative punishment at my work all the time. So, it's like taking away something to decrease a behavior is negative punishment. And like, we'll take away attention from a dog that's, like, jumping on us we'll put the leash underneath our foot, so if it does jump up, it adds pressure, and, like, that is technically also positive punishment, and, like, there's other things that go about that, and I think a lot of the time people, especially, like, in the fear-free aspect that, like, say, like, they're fear-free but don't really understand what that means, is you're still using adversives, you're just not using a prong collar or shock collar, and, like, you're still doing something the dog doesn't like, it's you're still teaching those things, and, like, in the shelter, it's so hard to not have a dog be in fear? What? I've never seen that before. Unless this dog comes in that's, like, happy-go-lucky on cocaine, then, like, cool. That dog's high on life. It doesn't care where it is. But it's still stressful meeting a new person. I think it's I always, like I kind of use the example sometimes of when you go to a party, even if you're an extrovert, if you don't know anyone, there's gonna be some slight level of stress in you that's like, "Oh, I don't know anyone at this party. I'm gonna have to introduce myself to people," and like, "Ugh, I hope it doesn't go bad." But if you're an introvert, that's like a nightmare. And so imagine like that is like such a low level of stress versus what a dog feels in the shelter environment. It's like it's going to feel it. I think I love the idea of, "Oh, fear-free, happy-go-lucky, unicorn, rainbows, shitting, like, this is great." But it's not that it's a great theory, but in practice, it doesn't work. And I think a lot of people kind of miss that. So I always say, like, we're as fear-free as possible, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, you can't have a dog that, like, automatically knows how to loose leash walk that won't put pressure on its own neck. Like, that's
Mm,
not a thing. Like, when you're teaching a puppy to walk on a leash, they're gonna feel the pressure of a collar or a harness and be like, "Ah!"
mm.
It happens. I mean, it's not gonna just go away, and, they have to work through that, and it's the same thing on, like, every life circumstance, especially the fear periods. Whenever, like, we get, like, an 8 or 9-month-old puppy in, and they're, like, scared of a door, and it's like
Mm.
everyone's like, "This dog was abused," and I'm like, "No, it doesn't know life yet." And it's like, this is a hormonal teenager, and it's also gone through its life, and it's going through its first heat, and it hasn't been fixed yet, and it has so many big feelings. And it's like, no, it doesn't know how to regulate itself, and it's stressed all the time, and so expecting, like, a dog like that to not experience that, I think a lot of the thing is with it is not to add external stress, like, not to purposely add it. So, like, if you don't have to do something, like, if a dog doesn't have to go into a room, don't force it, like, don't drag it into that room, is kind of like what we kinda get from it, or at least, like, what I get from it and, like, kind of the practices that we do. Like, if it's not absolutely necessary, then don't do it. But if it's like, this dog has to be seen for a medical reason, then, like, we're gonna pill it, or, like, we're gonna do something. It's kind of again, it's like, what is the cost versus the benefit?
And yeah, no, absolutely. And it is such a it is a fine line to balance because walking to a person walking towards an anxious dog is aversive, right?
Mhm.
And so just by approaching the dog to try and put a leash on them, you're already making the dog fearful just by existing. But again, I personally don't see that as a reason to give up on the dog. If
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense, like that's where sometimes you have to go. Okay, we need to go through some shit together. I promise you, everything will be fine at the end of it. But I'm just gonna get this leash on you. I'm gonna help you out of the kennel, and we're just gonna fast forward this a little bit. And again, to what you were saying with like the room as well, like if the room in and of itself is benign, if there is nothing scary there, if there's nothing to be scared of, you go like, hey, I'm going to add a little bit more pressure in this already shitty situation that we're in, so that when we get to the other side of the door, you're going to realize, like you said before, oh my god, I didn't die.
Yeah.
Right, because that is such a big part of the learning process. They're I've got a puppy now he's closing on to 9 months old, and he hurts himself all the time. Like, he runs into shit, he goes between my legs and I step on him, and our catchphrase at the moment is like, dude, did you die? Because he's sitting there with his paw raised up and like sucking to himself, and I'm like, dude, you're fine, just get on with it. And then he kind of shakes it off and he runs up and bites my Malinois. Like, it's
Yeah.
just kind of, if I was pandering to all that kind of oversensitivity that he's going through at the moment with the second fear period and everything, he would just learn to be pandered to. And
Mhm.
that would be kind of the opposite of what I would want from him. So it is a
Yeah.
little bit of a fine line to tread there, but like I get it. Like, especially in a super stressful environment, you want to kind of try and reduce the amount of additional pressure that you're putting on the dogs to make their lives a little bit easier. I totally get it. But I want to move on to another little thing. So I want to talk about what I've written down kind of weirdly as repeating patterns of surrenders. But I guess what I'm trying to say by that is like, what are the consistent things that dogs are being surrendered for? And what would you like? What can the training community or us as trainers actually do in order to help fewer dogs get surrendered to the shelter?
That is such a good question. I love that question. Um, a lot of the time, at least in my area, like the majority of the owner surrenders that I get is lost a job or moving because the economy sucks right now, and no time because they have another job because the economy sucks right now. There's not really much anyone can do other than a really rich trainer handing out money to people so that they can keep their dogs. There's not really too much training that could go on like that. I think another thing is sometimes it is like rude, jumpy, mouthy behavior, or this dog is too much for my family. But a lot of the owner surrenders that I get, which really sucks, they don't seek training first. Like, a lot of the time, the dogs that come into the shelter, like, a few of them do seek training, but a lot of the training are trainers that are not good at their jobs, really, and I hate to say that, but it's like, we got a dog in that was it was adopted at 8 weeks old, and then it was put into a board and train for 6 months at 4 months old, and it was put an e-collar on its first day, and it learned to be like it was like a protection sort of course, but I looked up the people, they had, like, no certifications or anything, they had, like, no dogs themselves that were in protection sports or, like, anything like that, it was just, like, a random person that called themselves a dog trainer, and they didn't have an LLC, they didn't have anything, and they, like, made this dog terrified of the world, and, like, there's not I think that the biggest thing is a lot of people that have to surrender their animals either give up really early and don't even really try as much, and the ones that do, like, most of the time, it's either a really, really, like, bad mix of a dog, like, it's like a border collie, husky, Belgian Malinois, German Shepherd mix that, like, is just a neurotic ball of, "Holy shit, what the fuck are you? You are an abomination," and then it's like going they went to a group class and they were like, "Oh, this dog couldn't focus. It can't do well in life." And then they're like, "I can't handle it." And they just like it's a lot of it's a lot of the time it's like just people that shouldn't have dogs in the first place, but like get dogs. I think as far as like training goes, I wish that there was like PSAs that we could put everywhere that's like, before you get a dog, take this course, but there's not really a thing for that. And like I think a lot of it is teaching people too that a lot of the times they'll get a dog and they're like, this dog doesn't sit automatically. It doesn't know its name immediately. And teaching people that like you kind of have to teach it that like it doesn't come pre-programmed and like having people learn that it's not like that immediately. Like it takes time and it takes work on like your part. It's like having a kid. Like you kind of have to teach it everything and you're also its teacher. And so you have to teach it how to read and write and do all the things. So I wish I had a better answer for you with that. I think it's just my area that I'm in. A lot of the times is just lack of training, and like lack and it's not even like good trainers because there's so many good trainers. It's just the people that don't really wanna put in the money or the effort, and I would say like, "Oh, everyone should offer free training," but that's not the world that we live in. So, I mean, if any millionaire out there wants to pay a bunch of trainers, like, that'd be great. That would save me so much.
Do you
Also,
know what?
if
That
a
would be
trainer
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that would
if
be
a
amazing.
trainer I would definitely recommend if a trainer wants to go to an animal shelter and train some of the dogs there and just see what that looks like, that might like because it's a very area based too. Because where I am in California, there's a lot of, like, people that are becoming poor very quickly, and it's California, so it's like everything is super expensive, and it's getting more and more expensive. But I'm sure in different areas, there's, like, different reasons. But going to an animal shelter and, like, picking a dog and like going once a week and just like seeing what you can do with it, or like fostering or what have you. And you're already doing like trainers are already doing so much help in the community for the dogs to be able to stay in their homes. But once they get to the shelter, it is so much easier to adopt out a dog that knows basic cues versus a dog that's never learned anything before in its life. So, I mean,
Mm.
even like, shit, you see a puppy and you wanna teach it to sit, that'd be awesome. Because then I could be like, "Look, this dog knows how to sit. You don't even have to do this," and it's nice. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love this is, like, such a big sidebar, but I love clicker training cats. I've gotten so many of our, like, long-term cats adopted because I've taught them how to sit, or I've taught them to, like, spin or, like, sit pretty or something. And so many people love that because, like, people don't do that a lot, but yeah, that's, like, massive sidebar.
Yep. No, 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 but that's cool. And again,
Yeah.
I think people expect cats to just not do anything, to just exist. But if you can actually teach them something, people go like, "Oh, that's really cool. It must be a super smart cat." Yeah.
Yeah, and they're so smart. You just need a cat that's, like, hungry for food all the time, and then which, like,
Yeah.
most cats are fat asses, so, I mean, like, it's pretty easy. But, I mean, yeah, no, it's so fun to do that, but, yeah, we get a lot of dogs that are, like I would say the majority of our intakes are, "I've had this dog in my backyard for its entire life, and it growls at people," or, "It's never been with people before, and I can't keep it because I'm moving to a place that doesn't have a yard that I can just keep it in," or I've had this dog and I'm going to college, or I have this dog and I lost my job and I don't have money to pay for my own food, let alone the dog food, which sucks. But I mean, we love
Yeah.
the economy right now.
Yeah, yeah, everything's like, look, I've never seen like the general state of people being more depressed than they are at the moment. And I've been
Yeah.
around for 45 years, so it's pretty crazy. Like, we've been through pandemics, we've been through economic collapses. Well, I have. And but I've never seen the level of like, I don't give a fuck that people have at the moment. It's actually quite depressing.
Aw. It's so sad, and a lot of people get dogs for, like, companionship, and then it sucks. Like, every now and then we get
Yeah.
a owner surrender where it's like, "I got this dog and it's my best friend, but I'm living out of my car." And, like, I have a pit bull, or, like, I have a German Shepherd that needs, like, medical help, and I don't have money to feed myself, let alone this thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, damn. Like, it's those are like, "Damn, that sucks." But, I mean, I hate to laugh, but, I mean, like, it's just, like, the state of the world is so absurd, and it's
Yeah.
the shelters are feeling it. The shelters are feeling it hard.
Oh, absolutely. And like
Yeah.
rescue groups down here, like I think ever since the all the COVID lockdowns and things have stopped here. So what is that? 3, 4 years ago. Um no rescue group ever recovered. Everything's full. They've got lists and the lists just keep getting longer and it's just
Mhm.
absolute madness at the moment. But look, let's get away from that for a little bit because I want to
Yeah.
talk about so these two kind of go together a little bit, like these two
Okay.
things that I want to talk about, because I know a lot of the dogs that come into the shelters, like you were mentioning before, are very often severely under socialized. Right,
Mhm.
that's where a lot of the aggression and issues are coming from. So, I want to talk about like going through a behavior modification process in a difficult environment and how you kind of how how would you like how do you approach that, where do you begin, how do you create some kind of consistency to get improvement in the dog's behavior. But I also want to talk about I don't know if you guys are involved in this at all, but have you heard of Dogs Playing for Life with Amy Sadler, the
I have.
socialization play program that she runs?
I
um
have.
all right, cool. So do you guys do it at your shelter, or
No, I've
do you
heard
have
about
like,
it.
yeah,
We
so
somewhat we
essentially,
somewhat do, but I mean, it's not I take a lot of inspiration from it. I'm able to, like, in my new position, I'm able to be like, "I wanna do this. It's fear free." And they're like, "Okay." And then I'm like, "I'm doing this now." And so I kind of am able to kind of make some changes. It's not like anything drastic, but I mean, I've taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of those types of people and, like, a lot of the programs in the other shelters because some shelters have, like, bitchin' programs, and I'm like, "Damn, this would help our dogs so much." But yeah, no, go on. Yeah, I'll have you explain it.
yeah, yeah,
You
no, no,
probably have
that's
the
fine.
information in front of you, and I can, like, remember it from my brain, but my brain's not that good,
Yeah,
so
sure. No, no, sure, for sure. And look, this is probably more for the whoever's listening, but
Yeah.
Amy Sadler is a trainer in America, and she started something like a not-for-profit organization that she calls Dogs Playing for Life. And essentially, what it is professional dog trainers traveling around to shelters and training the staff in how to read dog body language and how to get dogs in and playing together. That's kind of the whole process, how to get them back in with other dogs, how to get them to be social with dogs, how to even learn some boundaries, right? If you have a young dog that's very rude and jumping on everyone, they still need to be socialized in the terms of they have to understand that other dogs have boundaries. But yeah, it's a really cool program, and she travels around America and does it with a lot of shelters, and it's all about getting dogs out, getting dogs in together, getting them re-socialized, especially if you've had dog reactivity in the past or fear of other dogs, whatever it may be. And I guess one of the things that she was saying is when people walk into the shelter, if they see dogs playing together in a fenced off area, those dogs are so much more likely to be adopted because people go, I want a social dog that isn't going to be a problem. And there is one. And so it's a really cool little thing. But yeah, so thinking about like socialization processes, I guess, at a shelter and behavior modification in a really difficult environment where I presume dogs are barking all the time. You have limited time, you have limited resources. How do you go about it to get the most out of the time that you have to work with the dog? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, so at my shelter, which I love this about us, we it is so ingrained in our culture that it is training dogs is a task that you must get done during your day, which not a lot of shelters have that. It is just you're gonna clean the shit in this kennel. You're gonna try your best to make it through the day with the 18 intakes that we do. Like versus like we have that as well, but it's also like on the staff's mind and like reading body language and play groups is what we call like our like play areas are so ingrained in our day-to-day activity that it's insane. I'm so like we are so lucky to have that. Um so kind of I'm gonna kind of go on the list of what you said because there's a lot of answers to a lot of the things. So under
Yeah.
socialization, yeah. So I'll start with that first, and then I'll go to
Yep.
like the behavior modification, and then I'll go to like the playgroup thing. So the under socialization, I try to find what to me is like the easiest thing for the dog to overcome first. So usually if a dog comes in and they're not used to people, that is usually the easiest one to overcome first because there's so many goddamn people that you're going to have to meet at the shelter that work here every day. And so once you meet enough of those people, then it's kind of meeting another new person isn't as scary as meeting the last new person that you met. So it kind of we call it stranger danger. It kind of slowly like, becomes better over time, but there's a lot of, like, times when this dog is, like, terrified of everyone, but it warms up to one person, and then we do this thing called bridging, which I know I've talked to you about, where it's like you'll that one person who's a friend, who's an ally, will hang out with the dog and another person that's new or, like, doesn't have a good relationship with that person yet and we'll just hang out and we'll go for a walk or I'll sit next to the person and I'll have the person and I both give this dog treats at the same time. I'll be petting the dog and then suddenly their hand is also petting the dog and it kind of is like, okay, this friend is hanging out with my potential foe, but my foe is not doing anything and my friend likes this foe. So I don't think it's a foe anymore. And it's kind of like it like slowly builds. And I think a lot of the times once it's kind of like a domino effect. Once you get over one thing, or like once the dog gets over a little bit of stress, then like the next stressor is slightly less. Like, and then they overcome it a little bit faster. So, like, dogs is a really big one. We have a lot of dogs that like come in that are like from people that are unhoused that like were kind of taught to bark and growl at unknown people and unknown animals because it's to protect the unhoused person. And those cases, you are now teaching this dog, like, "Hey, you can't really do that. That's not like we're not gonna go away if you bark at us. We're just gonna sit outside your kennel still, and we're also gonna feed you. So, I mean, we're not hitting you." And they're like, "Oh, shit. Okay, you're here. I might as well smell you. And it's like kind of building off of that. And then it's the same thing with dogs too. We'll do parallel walks. So it's basically walking dogs in a group together, like walking one dog with another dog eventually and like slowly breaking the distance and like kind of walking side by side. And it's a lot of you're seeing now that you're cool with this staff member, now you're gonna go on a walk, which was also terrifying, but we already talked about leash conditioning and stuff. Now we got over that. Now you're seeing these dogs that are like out on leash. Oh shit. There's other things happening. There's just so much stimuli. Oh shit, you're hearing a car. Like, and it's slowly like they do get used to it over time. It's a lot of, like, going back to, like, puppy socialization, but it's so much slower for an adult, especially if they've already learned that everything new is terrifying. So it's a really slow process. I wish I had a better answer for that, but it's just like, "See, are you alive? You're alive!" And then the dog
Yeah.
just kind of slowly figures out, like, "Okay, I'm alive." There is sometimes that I think genetics play a really big component in it, obviously, but, like, people tend to forget, like, I if a pit bull comes in, and it's dog reactive, I'm gonna be a little bit more on top of that than I would be if it was, like, a lab, because genetically, they're more predisposed to dog aggression, so I'm gonna explore that a little bit more, and then if that dog genuinely wants is going after the other dog, it's not a defensive way, it's not like an offensive, like or it's not a defensive, like get away from me. It's like, I wanna come at you. I want a bite of you. It's not like a bark or a lunge to create distance, but it's like a bark or a lunge with intent. Then that's a kind of a different conversation. But a lot of it is, okay, you need to get over yourself. And like it's a lot of using neutral dogs too, which once we get a dog to a good point, then they become a neutral dog. And then I can introduce this now neutral dog, or like if we have a dog that comes in that's like already loves other dogs, then I'm like, cool, there's this dog that you can snap in its face. It doesn't give a shit. Like, it's not gonna do anything. Like, it's gonna look at you funny and it's gonna continue walking. And it's like, oh shit, that didn't work. Okay. Well, I'm gonna smell your butt now. And it like slowly builds off of that. And kind of that kind of goes into like the behavior modification too. It's a lot of, okay, let's start at like long distance away and let's kind of get closer and closer and closer to what your trigger is and see what your response is to that trigger. Because I always start like, which this makes a lot of my coworkers uncomfortable, but especially if it's like a dog reactivity, I'm like, okay, let's start with a play group. Like, I want to see if I drop leash, what this dog is going to do. And we have fake dogs. So if I'm like genuinely concerned that this dog is going to hurt another dog, then I'll use a fake dog and we'll like prop it up and like have someone fake walk it on a leash. And like, I'll just drop the leash and see if it like tries to kill it. But a lot of the time I'm like, let's see what the baseline is because I can't guess from a gazillion yards away and hope that I'm reading the frustration correctly and it's actually aggression and it's not frustration. So I'm just going to let them meet and like, let's see what happens. And a lot of the time you could tell right away, like, this dog is just really uncertain, it's really conflicted, and it doesn't know how to feel, and a lot of that time it comes from, "Oh, shit, I've never met another dog before. This kinda smells like me, but it's also not me, what the hell?" And it's kind of then it's like, "Okay, we're gonna go through the motions, we're gonna introduce you to more dogs, we'll take a big step back, and we're just gonna sit down on this bench, and you're just gonna watch dogs go by, and we're just gonna give you treats, and then when you stop reacting, then we'll get a little bit closer and then we might start a parallel walk. And then like you're gonna have meet male, female dogs. You're gonna meet dogs that are older, dogs that are younger. And kind of picking and choosing also the other dog if they're gonna have a bad reaction. Because if you're working with a dog that's reactive and you put them with another dog that's reactive and they fight, then that's like we're back to square one, actually negative one, because that just was like a whole setback. So it's a lot of it kind of depends on the behavior modification, and I am glad that you brought that up too, because one of the things that we do a lot is, with resource guarding. Resource guarding to me is one of the few things that, like, actually kinda scares me in, like, a shelter because a lot of the time, like, there's been studies done where, like, resource guarding doesn't always translate over to the home, especially if it happens in a shelter environment because it's such a different environment. It doesn't always transfer over at least the same way.
Okay.
Um, and usually in the shelter, we see it with, like, toys and stuff in the kennel because that is the only thing that the animal owns, and they put so much resource to it. They put so much, like, money into this object that it costs so much in their brain that you taking away this chewed up rope is actually their lifeline. And when that would never happen in a home because they're like, there's so much other stuff, you know? Um, but that's one of the things where it's like, will it's a lot of, like, slow progression as well, but it's slowly, like, I'm gonna trade it's a lot of trading games, it's a lot of, like, "I'm gonna drop this treat if you give me this toy, I'm gonna do this," and it's also based on, like, what it is, so, like, if a dog's, like, gar fan or it's, food guarding, then all of its meals are hand-fed, and I make that dog work, like, everything and it's a lot of basic stuff that, like, trainers and stuff do, but it's, like, kind of like the sheltery version of it too, and I feel like a lot of it, like, trainers can kinda guess, like, what the shelter would do, but I guess to a certain extent as well, a lot of dogs are put on behavior treatment or, like, behavior modification plans because of their kennel crazy behavior, which at a certain point, it's so stress ridden that it becomes pathological that there's no modification to be done in its current environment. Like, I can change its location in the shelter building, I can change it to a different building, I can put it in a yard throughout the day, or I can do something else, but if it's to the point where it's like, "You are crazy," or "You are this stressed, you are biting people because of the environment that you're in," there's not really too much I can do about that. So that's kind of when the question of, is this life worth it for you? Like, are you going to survive and be mentally stable enough until someone decides to adopt you? And how are we going to explain to this person, hey, you're coming to the shelter to look for your new companion. We have this dog, it's biting people right now, but a month ago it was fine. And you could take this dog home and it probably won't bite you. Like, at that point, it's like, what is that adoption counseling going to look like? And we don't get a lot of dog trainers that come in that are like, "Oh, yeah, no, I totally understand, like, this dog's been in a really stressful circumstance. I'll give it a week to decompress in my house in a cage," and, like, all that. Like, a lot of the times people come in and they're like, "I'm looking for my companion to live in my dorm with me," or "I'm looking for a dog that I can take to the dog beach." And that's not always the case. But also, like, going back to the next part of your question with the playgroup thing, I love
So,
doing.
so let's put a
Yeah.
pin in that for
Oh,
now,
yeah.
because I just want to talk about the like when dogs go proper kennel crazy,
Mhm.
because I know that is a big problem, and it is something that most shelters are going to deal with at some point in time. And I do know that very often that's when the conversation starts going to euthanasia. But
Mhm.
this is the perfect time to put an electric collar on that car to try and break the kennel psychosis. And we do know that there are many trainers around. I follow a few trainers around America who help a lot of shelters and stuff, and they can very often stop that kennel psychosis with one or two stimulations on an electric collar. Because what happens is the dog is so ingrained into this kind of like repeating stress pattern in its head that it goes, the second that door closes, I'm back into the pattern. And they begin, whether it's circling the crate, whether it's getting aggressive in the crate, whether it's climbing the walls or flipping the beds, whatever it is. But very often, just a couple of high level aversives is actually enough for them to go like, oh shit, why am I doing this? And it actually opens them up for proper behavior modification again. And so this is where I get so I guess frustrated that a lot of shelters, and we have the same stuff down here. It's all fee free, can't say no to the dog,
Mhm.
blah 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 bullshit. But what frustrates me so much is that why kill the dog before we try an aversive? Because maybe this dog can be fixed by literally just getting a quick slap to the face, and maybe that is enough to open them up to go like, oh shit, it doesn't have to be like this. I guess this is kind of like where I sit with a lot of the force free stuff, where I get so frustrated because they're like, no, no, it's better to kill them than make them feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Because I think that is bullshit myself.
Yeah, no, I totally see where you're coming from with that, and I mean, there's been times where it's like, I'll see it we don't use that at my work, unfortunately, for, like, several different reasons
Yeah.
and stuff, but I think seeing the dogs and seeing their state, and I mean, like, my Belgian Malinois is e-collar trained because she's an idiot, but and, like, that's for her own safety because she will jump off a cliff if she sees something flying in the air because she's like, "I could jump that high." But
Yeah.
yeah, so, like, so I use it for, like, that and stuff and, like, for her training and that sort of thing, but I think 'cause I've also seen it the other way too, where they'll put, like, I've seen trainers that have had really good successes with putting an e-collar on a dog and kind of zapping its brain back to reworking. But also what can happen too that I've seen as well on, like, social media and, like, talking to the trainers that, like, do use e-collars and stuff in the shelter system, that if you kinda have to do it at the right time, because if it goes too much, then you're just steaming like, stabbing a person that's already been stabbed 100 times, like, that thing's not coming back to life. Like, it's you're just adding more fuel to the fire at that point, which I I haven't I don't have too much, like, personal experience with this, so I've only this is just, like, what I've been told by, like, my, like, training friends and, like, that sort of thing that have done this. It can totally be possible, but once you do that, then it's like, okay, now the clock resets, and how long is it going like, is the dog going to get adopted before you have to do that again? Or how fast is it gonna go? And then also, if it doesn't work, then are we open to euthanasia at that point? Because you can if I can tell you, I've met some dogs that, like, if I fully believe if I had put an e-collar on them and, like, given them a high stimulus, um, a few times, that I don't even think that they were aware enough to know where it was coming from. And we've had some dogs that, like, they get so stressed that it's kind of like when you're scared, you don't go to the bathroom, or, like, when your body system's kinda shut down and, like, your adrenaline starts going and, like, that sort of thing. There's dogs that they get so stressed that they go to the bathroom as they're moving, or they don't go for, like, 2 days because they're so, like, towards that kennel crazy thing where I don't know if they would even feel it to, like, a certain like, obviously they would, but it's kind of like their brain starts to shut down to a certain point, so I think that it could be very plausible, especially for certain dogs, but I also think genetics play a component as well, because if the dog's already at the shelter, and especially if it comes in and it's immediately showing that behavior, I'm not really sure how much like, you can't change the genetics. I know you say that a lot in your podcast as well. Like, there's only so much that you can do. If the dog is so predisposed to that, yeah, I can train the shit out of it, but, like, is it going to change what its brain is telling it to do? And,
Yeah.
like, it's a lot. But I think one of the other things, if you had said that and, like, another thing popped into my mind. Oh, yeah, and I think it's also I going back to kind of like the kill shelter thing. I hate to bring it back to this, but shelters that don't kill for capacity, because we don't euthanize for capacity. And I hate saying like kill for that, but euthanize, humanely
Hmm.
euthanize for capacity. Um, instead
Well,
of doing
call
that,
a spade. We are killing the dog. So,
yeah. But I mean, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's like once the dog has been there for so long and it's getting to that point, any other shelter or most other shelters that do euthanize for capacity, like a lot of the shelters in California and like LA area, they can only take 100 dogs. So if they take a new one in, then their oldest dog, even if it's a perfect dog, will get put down just to make room for the new one. Like I said, it's the other end of the conveyor belt. They just fall off. And it's kind of I think it's in a way for a lot of shelters that I mean I've spoken with and like I've known people at, it's kind of like their version of doing that in, like, a fucked up way, but it's you're losing your brain. We can use this and you've been here for months. We can use this space for a dog that will be adopted in a week. And it's really sickening and sad, but I think to a certain extent, shelters that are fear-free and euthanize for those reasons, it makes the people and it makes the donors feel better that they're euthanizing for behavior concerns versus they're euthanizing for length of stay, when at the end of the day, it's kind of the same thing at a point.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and look, I get it. And it's interesting what you talk about there because I if there was one thing I learned when I was working in rescue, And so I was with a rescue group for a long period of time, and I was with them when I was training to be a trainer, and I ended up being a trainer for them and everything. And one thing that you realize when dogs are coming in and out of your house on a weekly basis is that rescue is a number game.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people who are new to especially dog training tend to be very starry eyed and blue eyed about the whole I can save everyone kind of thing. And you realize pretty quickly, especially if you work with difficult dogs, that not everyone can be saved. And at the end of the day, it's if I have a dog that is super reactive to other dogs and maybe even has some human aggression issues, maybe over a 3-month period, we could rehabilitate that dog to make it safe to adopt out. But how many other dogs are not getting a spot that could very easily be saved in the wake of this dog that we are just scrambling to help?
Mhm.
And again, as horrible as it sounds, the shelter and the rescue side of things is one of the hardest parts of dog training, because at the end of the day, it's just trying to save as many as possible. And in order for that to happen, euthanasia has to be part of it from time to time, unfortunately, as shit as that is.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I think that so many dogs could be saved, and, like, if we didn't have intakes every single day and we didn't have, like, the amount of dogs being born and the amount of cats being born and, like, the amount of, like, that's things being happening all the damn time for these dogs that don't have homes and stuff, and we had the capacity, I'm sure that those dogs that are, like, at the state of high FAS or, fear, anxiety, and stress can bounce back from that with more training, but it's limited resources, and it's like who everyone is starving, who gets a piece of this pie? Like, is it the person or is it the dog that is going to have a good life, or is it going to be this dog that is starting that unfortunately is under socialized, never knew anything, ended up at a shelter at 5 years old with no basic manner skills and has never been told no in its life and is losing its marbles, or this 8-week-old puppy who is a Maltese that everyone wants. Like, is that like, what like, and it sucks. But, I mean, I think if the question was, like, we have unlimited resources, then yeah, e-collar away. Like, we can work so much more with these animals, and if we had unlimited resources, then that dog wouldn't be in the kennel as much as it is. But that's not the reality, and unfortunately, it in this current reality, I think a lot of dogs can be saved if we use more aversive tools in the shelter or if, like, more people were willing to foster or if trainers were willing to come in more and stuff. And that's not a dig at anyone, but the reality is there's not enough
No.
people and there's too many animals. Like
Oh,
it sucks. Yeah,
100%.
it
Yeah.
sucks. And I definitely think that we like we as like shelters in general and rescues and stuff, they do make euthanasia decisions quicker on some dogs than others based on their adoptability levels. Like I will tell you, if a Chihuahua is displaying the same behavior as a German Shepherd, we are going to euthanize the German Shepherd first, and it is
Mm.
solely based on no one wants a German Shepherd right now. Like,
Yeah.
we have so many in the shelters right now, and it's
Yeah.
like, this one is going to get overshadowed by all of the better ones, and not
Yeah.
to say that that dog isn't a good dog, I wanna, like, say that. Like, those dogs every dog like, is a good dog in their own right and has the potential to be a perfect dog for someone, but in that instance, what is that going to look like if
Yeah.
that person is going to come along a year or 2 from now, you know? So it's a lot of there's a lot of, like, yeah, it'd be great if the shelters weren't, like, fear-free, or it would be great if we could use tools everywhere, and, like, that would be awesome, but it would also be awesome if, like, other things were good too. So it's kind of
Yeah, for sure.
I hate it. It sucks.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No. And there's just two things I want to touch on there before I want to
Uh-huh.
continue on to fuck, this is going to be such a bleak podcast, but hopefully we
No,
can
it's
have some
okay.
fun at
It's
the end
okay.
of it.
It
But
could be it's fine. It's fine. We're going.
but I want to So I want to start by talking about so genetics. And I know we touched on this before, and I always say that I can do so much to change a dog's life with training, but one thing that I cannot change is DNA. Genetics is genetics, and I have met not many dogs, but I've met a few dogs that you look at them and you go, there's something wrong with you. Like you are evil. I don't know. You came out wrong somehow. And there's nothing we can do about this.
Mhm.
And that is the unfortunate truth. It happens to people as well. Genetics is always going to be a roll of the dice. Sometimes Mother Nature fucks it up real bad, and especially if you have a bigger or more driven dog, like a pit bull, like a German Shepherd. Holy shit, that is dangerous. And so genetics absolutely has to play a part in it, but I also do understand that it's much easier to work with a 3 kilo Shih Tzu than it is to work with a 50 kilo German Shepherd who both have aggression issues like that.
Yeah.
And especially if you're on the time constraint and you're under pressure financially and everything else, you have to make some tough decisions. It just happens. And but also coming back to the tool thing, tools are they do require a lot of knowledge to implement them properly, especially in extreme situations like a shelter. And I don't know if you've ever listened to the Canine Paradigm, but it's another Australian dog training podcast. But Pat Stewart talks about, one of the main reasons why people want to ban tools is not because they don't work. It's because they work so goddamn well. If you don't know what you're doing with them, you can fuck a dog up for life. Right.
Mhm.
But again, in my opinion, the response to that shouldn't be stop them from existing. It should be we need better education. So I just kind of wanted to leave the whole tool conversation on that. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, feel free to throw them out now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I don't think that they should be banned at all. I think that they should be put in the proper hands, and they shouldn't be sold at pet stores as nationwide as they are, and you should have to read a few manuals and take a test before you can buy one or something. But, like, I still it's
Or
kind of
just
like
or just you can only buy them from a trainer that has shown you how to
yeah.
use them, for example. Right.
Yeah, like something as like a barrier because so many people come in with like a dog that's like fucked because they put a shock collar on a husky puppy and now this dog doesn't know why it's getting shocked every 2 seconds and its reaction is to scream and then it's just shut down. Like that's
Hmm.
so like I think it's I agree with everything that you just said. Like, I'm trying to, like, add to it, but, you
No,
said
no.
it so beautifully. But, yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that I think the correct thing for that is to, like, spread more education and not to ban the tools and also make some barriers for, like, how readily available those tools are because I think the biggest mistake is people that are like, "Oh, I can buy this prong collar for $15 and I'm gonna fix my dog from pulling," and then it's like, "Well, that didn't do shit." Like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or it's like they have it on so loose and it's like you're not doing anything or you're not doing what you think you're doing, and it's a lot of that, but yeah, I wish that there was better education with it, and I wish that, I wish the world was just great, it's not a hard wish, you know?
Well, look, looking at how fucked up the world is now, I think that maybe is a very difficult wish. But
Yeah.
you know, but again, it always comes back to this: it's not the tool, it's the fool, right? The tool
Yeah,
doesn't do anything, and electric collar doesn't do anything until the moron
and
holding the
I
remote presses the
and
button.
just to add on to that, I think that I know because 'cause I've seen it, fear free can just be as harming and damning to a dog as improper use of an e-collar. Like, you can accidentally train a dog that their aggression and their feelings are totally okay for just with reinforcement of those things. Like, you don't need an e-collar to fuck up a dog. It's a lot easier to fuck up a dog with improper use of an e-collar, but it can still fucking happen, and it's like, you should be knowledgeable before you can use certain tools, and I think it's also, like, dog trainers also especially on, like, dogs with, like, board and trains and stuff, like, they go to a dog they go to a dog savvy home, and then they go back to this non-dog savvy home, and it's people that don't really understand, like, "Oh, this is more training for me on how to train the dog," the versus, "Oh, you're not just training the dog," you know? So, it's a lot of that, but yeah.
Oh yeah, like don't get me started on board and trains. Like when I used to do board and trains, and I want to get back to that at some point. But I would always say to people, in 4 weeks, I can get your dog 80% of the way, but then you have to do the remaining 20, and they are kind of the drawn out period, right? And that's the thing, trainers, we can get results quickly because we have skills, we're good at reading dogs, we have consistency, we understand levels of pressure, we understand reinforcement schedules, all of that, and so we can usually make progress very quickly. But in 4 weeks, especially if you're dealing with any form of reactivity or aggression, you probably won't get all the way to the end, but you can set the dog up, and then you have to set the people up to continue on to get 100% of the way. And I think um, a lot of people who do a lot of board and trains and sell board and train packages, they go 100% result 100% of the time, no questions asked, and then when they send the dog back, they just block the number of the person that they had. I know that because I know people have said that to me, and that is
Yeah.
incredibly unfortunate, and it's a bit of a fucking blister on the dog training industry as a whole.
Yeah, we have those people here in America too. They suck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great. There's
unfortunately.
bastards everywhere. There's motherfuckers everywhere. It sucks. But
All right,
yeah.
so now that it is as bleak as it already is, let's talk about let's get stuck into behavioral euthanasia.
Oh, wait, really quick before we go into that,
Yeah, sure,
I
go for
wanted
it.
to go back really quick because we had put a
Yes,
pause in the
go for it.
conversation, but I think it's really important to go over the playgroup part in,
Oh,
animal
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
shelters.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was really excited when you brought that up because I'm like, "Yes, everyone should do that." It is so good for a dog to, like, get out and, like, you can't do it right away if, like, the only time the dog is getting out is to see another dog. That causes so much frustration. Anytime they see a dog, they're like, "Oh my god, I need to play with it," and that can cause more reactivity than anything. But it is so good for, like, a dog, especially a puppy to, like, or, like, a rude, jumpy, mouthy dog to learn, like, from another dog because they speak the same language. I can't fucking tell this dog, like, to stop jumping as quickly as a bite can from another dog. Like, that it can help so much, and I mean, we have dogs that come in, that is, like, the biggest part of my behavior, modifications, honestly, which when I first started at my work, it was like, we do playgroups maybe once a week if, like, there's really savvy staff, which there hardly ever was, and you have to at my work, there's a rule that, like, there's 1 handler per dog, which that I know there's places that's like you can have 30 dogs to, like, 1 or 2 people. I do like the fact that we do, like, 1 staff member to 1 dog. Yes, they're smaller play groups, but they're a lot more controlled, and in the place of, like, when I'm working with behavior modification dogs that are, like, fearful to people, and we're playing with a dog, or they're even just coexisting with a dog, which people don't understand that, like, the dogs being together in a space, even if they're not interacting, is still really good for the other dog, especially if, like, let's say there's a dog that's fearful of people. I'll throw it into a playgroup with a really friendly dog. And like the really friendly dog might go over to the other dog and be like, "Hey." And the fearful dog might just be like, "Whoa, I'm not about this." And especially if the friendly dog or the neutral dog is like, "Okay, sick. I'm just going to go over and hang out with the people." That other dog is seeing another member of its species interacting with other people, having good relationship. And it's kind of like, oh, they're not killing this thing. They're not hurting it. Like, oh shit, that could be me. And there's so much, it's kind of like the curiosity version of the dogs kind of come out and they're like, oh shit, okay, sick. This could be good. And I use a lot of those layman's terms because it's easier to explain to my staff that like how what's happening in the dog language by making like, "Yeah, this dog's like, 'It's sick, it's party time,'" and, like, using that instead of, like, actual, like, dog terminology, so I apologize. But, um, yeah, I think it's kind of a lot of, like, monkey see, monkey do, and then, when dogs are, like, learning to get over their reactivity with other dog, putting them with several other dogs and, like, showing them, like, "Hey, it's not the end of the world." Like, this dog can correct you and not escalate it. This dog can also be next to you and it's not you're not on fire. you're fine.
Mm.
And it's a lot of like that kind of stuff. So I love doing play groups. I try to do them daily. I try to do them at least with our longer stays that appreciate other dogs. There's some dogs that genuinely don't give a shit and would rather not be with other dogs. And like those dogs, I've never done to like force them to really be in a play group. It's more so of like if you're gonna go out of your way to attack another dog, then yeah, you're gonna be in some play groups. But and like we're gonna work on that a little bit. But if you're like you just don't care or you're like don't like a dog in your bubble, that's fine. I don't care. As long as you're not going out of your way to do something. Because if you're going out of your way to do something, we're gonna work on that. But obviously in a safe thing, people that work at shelters do not do this unless you're like trained and have someone that can help you with this. But it's like it's nice to be able to do that because not a lot of other places are. And a lot of places have a lot of rules as far as like play groups. And so you can just put like new dogs together with a bunch of different personalities and like call it good. And I think there's a lot of people that like work in boarding facilities that are like, oh, well, I work with 10 different dogs and they're all friendly together and there's only one person that's here. And I'm like, that's great. Those dogs are at a boarding facility that have probably gone through training and they're probably already good with other dogs. And that is not at the shelter. And so there's a lot of like
Mm.
miscommunication there with like, well, why don't you do that more? And it's like, we would if these dogs were like plug and play. And we do have some plug and play
Yeah.
dogs that are like, when those come in, it's like, hallelujah, holy shit. This is Christ has given me a gift. And it's like, oh my goodness. But then a lot of the times it's like, okay, this dog doesn't know anything on how to dog. Like I'm dealing with this dog right now who is having daily play groups because his first play group, he came in as a stray. So I don't know shit about him. And he's a pit mix. And he went over to this other dog, and this other dog was like very loose body, like, let's play, let's do the things. And he goes over and he's like, does a play bow, but he's like really stiff. And I'm like, what's going through your head? And so he like they're playing and then he vocalizes a lot and he just pins the other dog and he's like on top of the other dog really tense. And then he's like wailing and then he's like mouth on the other dog's neck but like not letting up and the other dog is just like kind of frozen is like what are you doing because it was play and then it wasn't play and it's like okay there's something I don't know what's going through your head right now but there's some problems there so then we're like okay let's break it up and so we just like kind of distracted them from each other. We let them kind of go back. It was play again. And then the other dog got a little bit overstimulated and was like, no. And it's like, okay, there's something going on in your head right here. And so I'm going to figure that out. Let's try a different play buddy. This dog is a male that's smaller than you. Let's try a female that's bigger than you with a different play style. Okay, you're still even weird with her, or you're even weirder with her. Okay, let's put you back in your kennel with some treats. You're obviously not having a very good time right now. Let's restart in a little bit and then we'll take you out in an hour. Let's go on a walk with some other dogs. Let's see what your reaction is. Okay, you're better at this part of the building than this part of the building. Okay. And it's like slowly kind of building that because now he can play with any dog. But it's a lot of, oh shit, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to do what my brain tells me to do. And what his brain was telling him to do was like dominant position, blah, I'm going to be an asshole. And not a lot of dogs have taken well to that. So it's a lot of like picking, choosing, but I'm not going to see that on a dog and be like, it's aggressive. It's a lot of like, okay, you don't know how to dog. You don't know life. Like, let's teach you the ropes.
Yeah. And a lot of that as well is, and I don't think people understand this, like playing and being social is a learned skill. It's not something the dog's born with. And so they kind of have to work that out. And what we tend to see is like what you're describing there, to me, sounds like one of two things. It's either a lack of confidence, so the play escalates a little bit, and he goes like, "Fuck, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just going to pin you to try and stop it all." Or it's just over arousal losing itself into like borderline aggression. That's what I
Mhm.
tend to see with a dog. Like, and pit bulls have a crazy levels of arousal generally, right? And they get to a point where, like I think you were saying before, like how play switches to actual aggression because
Yeah.
the dog loses itself in arousal and it goes like, well, fuck, like like play is practicing aggression, but in a
Mhm.
controlled manner. But if they lose control in that aggression practice, shit can go down real bad, real quick.
Yeah.
But I think just to touch on another thing you said there as well, because that this is very much a big part of how I deal with behavior modification, and that when a dog is locked in a behavior or a mindset, so especially when dealing with reactivity or aggression, what I'm trying to do is interrupt that and open the dog up for curiosity. Because when you see that dog come out of that locked mindset and they start like raising their nose up and sniffing and things, suddenly the dog's like information's actually going into the dog's brain. Whereas previously it's just like, no, it's fight or die kind of thing.
Mhm.
But then if that is met with an aversive or a punishment or, whatever else that it is, that factory reset of the brain kind of opens them up to go like, oh shit, there are things around me that I wasn't noticing before because I was only fixating on the one dog. And suddenly they start actually looking around and going like, oh, there's a whole world here that I've never seen because I've been so fixated on fighting other dogs. And curiosity, there's no better thing to reward than that, in my opinion, because that's the first step towards like, hey, the world's bigger than it actually is inside your head.
I agree with that completely. I think a lot of it too is like once the dog kind of, I think, because I know in balance training and like kind of the training that you do to kind of get the dog to like reset and like break out of its like hyperfixation is like an e-collar or like something like that to kind of like interrupt it. And because we don't have access to that where I'm working and like when I'm doing these kind of play groups and stuff, the biggest thing is distance, like finding what their threshold is and staying right outside of that, which it takes a lot more time. It does eventually work for a lot of cases, but some dogs it's just not. And for play groups, we're actually allowed to use pet corrector, which is like compressed air. And some dogs
Yep.
find that so aversive and others don't. We are able to use slip leads. So I do use that to my advantage at sometimes. And it's like the differences in that, like it would be so much faster to train so much of these things if more tools and stuff were acceptable. But they're not. And so we're just gonna take the slowest approach possible. And it's
Yeah.
like we're gonna do it, but it's gonna be so slow. And so that's why I think playgroups and stuff are so important because this dog can give a good correction to a puppy that's being really jumpy mouthy that I can't do because I can't use the adversive that this dog needs to understand that message. And it's
Yeah.
like teaching them to dog. Like I love using that. And I also we have like new staff members and stuff and I love getting them into like playgroups with me immediately. And I'm always like, I don't know if this is going to go well. I think that this is going to go awful, honestly, but we're just going to try it. And so you can experience what this is. And I mean, I'm never scared to like do a playgroup that's like, I don't like we try to do the best masters possible, but there's going to be some dogs especially are like that are like so overtly because with him I think it was more insecurity and like lack of socialization and like lack of knowledge with him that was just like I'm just gonna overdo everything and I'm just gonna my brain is telling me to be dominant, I'm just gonna be dominant and or like take a dominating stance. And I think a lot of it is, when a new staff member sees that or like when a new person in the dog world sees that, it's like, oh shit, like holy fuck, this could go bad, really easily. And I'm like, yes, but it's not. And it's like, how do I know it's not going bad? Because there's no blood, but also this dog's body language is doing this. That tells me that it's uncertain and it's not following through on its actions. It's holding the dog down, but it's not continuing to thrash and try to hurt this other dog. It's really confused right now. And it's like learning that I love doing playgroups. I think it's so beneficial. I wish everyone like I like when especially in a shelter, which I'm just gonna say this to like clear up any confusion. If you have an owned dog like that is in your home that doesn't care for other dogs, not every dog needs a playgroup. Not every dog needs a buddy. If the dog is like chill by itself, that's fine. But if the dog is like having issues, like at the end of the day, we could do a million playgroups, and if that dog just wants to coexist and just wants to be in its bubble, that's fine. But it does need to know that it can't be an asshole. And
Yeah.
the only way to teach it how to not be an asshole is for some other dog to kind of be more of an asshole to it at some points, but also show like, hey, you can be a dick, but this dog does not give a shit and it's not going to get the reaction that you think it is. And then it's like, oh, well, fuck. Now what do I do? And it's like, okay. It's like, now you're thinking, now you have a brain. And yeah, I love doing that. But yeah, sorry to go back to that. We can go back to the sad conversation too if you want
No,
to.
absolutely. No, but this is
Yeah.
good. And it's funny that you should say that because my behavior modification process literally has two things in it. never pull on the leash, don't be a dickhead. That's
Mhm.
it. Like where people do like extensive obedience training and stuff, I'm like, that's not going to help you at the end of the day. But the dog making decisions, the dog learning, the dog testing, the dog finding boundaries, the dog learning for itself, that's the important bit. And to me, that is created through giving opportunities and giving consequence feedback, whether that is aversive or repetitive. That depends on what I'm seeing, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I need to do an episode on like proper behavior modification at some point, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. All right, cool. So
I would love to listen to that. That'd be awesome. I love hearing
I
other people's, like, reaction like, oh, how people describe it, especially, like, in the training, like, training pet dogs versus training shelter dogs is, like, so different, but I love stealing ideas from
yeah,
that because 'cause I'm always like, "I'm just gonna add this to my program now." It's like, "Tee-hee, I'm gonna steal this." But it's nice to do, and it helps the dogs so much. Sometimes just, like, hearing other perspectives, I'm like, "Oh, shit, I never thought about that. That could be really good." But, like, also sometimes
oh
it's
yeah.
like, pet like, own dogs versus, like, shelter dogs are so different on so many different circumstances too that it's like, "Okay, I could never do that with a shelter dog," you know?
And again, like I think, like all of this information that you see online, you kind of pick and choose things and you learn from things and you test things out. Like, and the more things you have to, like, the bigger your toolbox is to draw from, to use a bit of like a cliche. Like, because you're always going to meet that one dog that you are just banging your head against the wall and you go like, I do not know how to talk to this dog. I do not know how to get through to this dog. Everything I'm kind of well versed in, none of it is working. But that's when you go and like, oh, but what about this thing that I learned from this person 6 months ago? Might as well try it. And suddenly that can be the one thing that actually creates that opening. Right.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
I
that's why it's
totally
so
agree.
important to share all of this information and just, give people the best chance that they have at succeeding with their dogs. That, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing I give a shit about. It's that dog and owner has a better life together.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
agree.
so we have to end. We're not going to end on this, but like I feel like it's important to get through this thing, and that is behavioral euthanasia. And
Mhm.
so I think a lot of people think that I am very opposed to behavioral euthanasia because I do complain about it a fair bit on social media. But I just want to clarify that I think we're massively over euthanizing dogs before giving them an opportunity to have an aversive experience and move on with life. That's one of the things that I complain a lot about because that when people say, and actually like here in like in New Zealand, the new statement by the veterinary uh, board, I can't remember what they call it, but their official statement is that it's always better to euthanize a dog than them having an aversive experience. And that to me is insanity. That is just killing willy nilly. And that is kind of what I speak out against because so many dogs that I've worked with that people have said every other trainer and the vet has told us to kill this dog. And literally a few weeks of training with an electric collar, and that dog is running off leash and it's safe and it's having the best life that it could be. So I just want to point out that I'm not against behavioral euthanasia. I think we do it too often, though, and that's kind of like obviously. So this is in a pet dog setting, but in a shelter setting, it's going to be very different. And so, I guess talk us through when the conversation begins. Like, at what point, what does the dog have to do for you guys to go, like, all right, we need to have a conversation? And then what is the decision process from there?
Yeah, so our shelter works really good. I feel like on this level to a certain extent, like there's been some where I'm like, that shouldn't have happened and like we could have done more for this animal. But I do understand the perspective of like, okay, there's someone on this team like there because we have like they're called outcome evaluation team meetings where if we have dogs that we're like, okay, something needs to move here. We have a team, it's like with vets, it's with several different behavior people that work for our shelter, and it's the directors and it's like people from our marketing team. It's like a bunch of people. And we all just meet and we're like, this is the dog behavior. and it just opens the floor. And then people are like, okay, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have we done this? Have we done that? And usually before it gets to that meeting, it is, we're going to talk about everything that we think that like, or we're going to try everything that we can think of. And then once we get to that meeting, it's like, okay, I've tried so much. This is everything that we've tried. What am I missing? And then from there, it's sometimes like, okay, how about we try this medication, or we try moving this dog somewhere else? And like, I know like a lot of people speak out against like medication and stuff being used way too much for like certain things. I do agree with that in like the pet circumstance, but in a shelter, I think to a certain point, medication is necessary to combat stress because it's such a stressful more environment versus if this dog was in a home, it would probably like my Malinois doesn't need trazodone every day. But if she was in a shelter, holy shit, I hope she would be on some. Like it would be so much more stressful than just existing in a pet life. So we do that more. But that's kind of the team meeting where it's like, okay, if this dog goes into a home, what is that going to look like? What is its length of stay going to be? Has it had any interest? Like, what's its adoption pool is always a big question. Like, who can adopt this dog? And it's like, is that market open? Like, do these people want that actual dog? And that's like last sort of outcome. So I just start at like the end of the story, but kind of leading up to that, it's a dog comes in. The knowledge that we get from the home is always going to be the knowledge that we try to like hold on to. So if they're like really good in the home, but they're doing awful in the shelter, then we might try a foster, or we might try to do an offsite, which is where we just take the dog off to like the park or something for a few hours and see how it goes. And it's always like what their experience is outside of the shelter is more true than what their experience is in the shelter. So if they were a great dog at home, but they're doing awful in the shelter, we might try to find like a foster or something like that. My shelter doesn't really do fostering too much, but that's a different thing for a different time on fostering versus not fostering, whatever. But it's like, okay, this dog is doing really poorly here. Or like this dog, like let's use like rude, jumpy, mouthy behaviors. Like this dog in the home was having that. It accidentally did tooth scrape someone at some point, or it didn't. And it's just getting to the point where they feel unsafe with it with their kids. Okay, so they take it to the shelter, regardless if they've had training or not. That was the behavior that they were seeing in the home. They take it to the shelter. It starts showing that behavior with staff. We try to do our basic like impulse control, like sit to say please, like we're going to teach this dog some basic manners. And so that way, once they know sit, they can't sit and jump on us at the same time. Let's try to give them some basic stuff. But it's always like, okay, you have some problems. We're going to work on it. From there, it's also like, okay, what medication are you on? Well, how can we help you? Is your placement okay? Because if you're stressed, or if your neighbor is super stressed and your neighbor is like screaming all the time, then we're probably going to try to move you somewhere quieter if that's going to help your behavior. Because I don't expect a dog when I'm getting it out of a kennel to be like sitting immediately if their neighbor is like, "Ah, rah, 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 rah," which we're also going to talk about the neighbor, but it's like just this dog. So,
Yeah.
okay, what can we do? Like, okay, maybe you need more outlets. You hate your kennel. Let's spend more time in an office. Okay, you love running free. Let's try to give you more yard time, because we have yards at my shelter, which not a lot of shelters do. But
Yeah.
let's run around. Let's give you more outlets. Let's try to do everything. And we just flood this animal with like, let's give you all the things. Like, we're going to try everything. And sometimes we get to a good place where they're like, okay, this dog actually really likes the kennel. Or like a crate. Let's add a crate to their kennel. So that way they have like a little home thing to go into. They actually really like crate training. Let's give it quiet time in a few hours a day. And that helps with its overall stress levels. But kind of touching on like, I know we discussed the 3-3-3 rule before this podcast, and so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it for the people that do know, because I know we are running a little bit over time. But
Yeah. No,
once it gets to a certain
talked about
point,
that in the past, I think. I think I
yeah,
have talked about
probably.
that in the past, but yeah, all good.
Yeah, so after a few weeks, like that's usually when like the behaviors, and like a few months even, like there's there's a week that behavior gets really bad, and it's always like making it past that point. And sometimes we can get to a stasis where, okay, you are chewing at the bars of your kennel. okay, let's put you where is your kennel located? Okay, it's located near the yards where a bunch of dogs are passing by all the time. Let's move you to a kennel where you can't see other dogs all the time. Okay, you stopped biting at the fence. So that's like one problem fixed for now. But that problem can reoccur if other needs aren't being met. So even if it's not being like walking by, they might have found some sort of soothing behavior with chewing on the kennel. And so they're just going to do that. So now their teeth are stuck in the bars or something like that. There's always like, we try to troubleshoot as much as possible until it basically becomes the question of, is the animal doing behavior that is harming itself so much that we can't really stop it anymore? So if we move the dog so many different times and it's chewing at the bars on every single enclosure and it's making its mouth bleed, that's self-harm. What can we do? If we The only way that we can get this dog to stop doing that is if we over medicate. But at that point, the behavior, we don't want to over medicate because then the behavior is like you're just drugging out this dog and it's not itself at that point. And how am I supposed to show that to an adoption family? And then, okay, it's really reactive towards other dogs. It is not getting better, it's getting worse. And we all feel that if we drop the leash, that dog is going to kill another dog or going to cause very great harm to another dog or another person. And it's always like, if it gets to the point where it's like, okay, there's not really much else that we could do, that's when we call like the team meeting and we're like, okay, this is everything that we've done. Please tell me someone has a better idea. And then it's troubleshooting. And then unfortunately, it's sometimes at the end of that sentence is, this dog has been with us for 3 months. It has had one meet and greet and they were turned off by its behavior. It has not been shown to anyone else because no one else has been interested. Its problems could be solved by a trainer that is willing to take it for 6 months, but that is not something that can happen. And this dog is unsafe for the community because if it sees another dog on the side of the road and it's being walked by your average Joe, it's gonna pull so hard that that person might let go of the leash and it might kill this other dog. So it's like, what is that? What does that look like? And so it sucks. And a lot of the times that's what the behavior modification or the behavior euthanasias look like at my work,
Yeah.
which a lot of places don't have the amount of resources that we have. And a lot of
Mm.
places will see, okay, this dog is chewing at its kennel door. We have to euthanize. And they don't have the space, especially if a dog shelter is so overrun, they don't have the space to move it to a different location. They don't have that luxury. Or they don't have the luxury of putting it into an office, or they don't have the luxury of asking for a foster. They don't have the luxury of doing any of that. So, unfortunately, that answer comes a lot quicker.
Mm.
And I mean, we kind of go off of the bite scale as well. If a dog comes in and it's like it has a bite on its record already, then and we're always taught like at my shelter at least that once a dog bites and it works, like if it wants the person to go away and it bites someone and that person goes away, that behavior is going to come back faster because it worked
Yeah.
that one time. And so then it's going to bite more. And once it has like a level 3 bite on like the Dunbar scale, I think it's the Dunbar scale. I might be saying the wrong
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
word,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But once it gets to a certain point,
So I
it
should probably just mention real quick that the Dunbar scale goes from 1 to 6, and 1 being snapping and missing, and 6 being multiple prolonged sustained bites that result in death. So 3 is kind of like a decent bite, but it isn't quite a mauling yet.
yeah, it's like one bite that sinks teeth in, breaks skin, and there's multiple puncture wounds is
Yeah.
like kind of even a level 2, which is like it leaves marks, or
Bruises.
like you
Yeah, yeah.
successfully bite and it might leave a bruise. That's still like, ooh, okay, why? Because if it's like a kid that was riding the dog like a horse and it does that bite, I'm not going to be nearly as upset as if it's someone that's reaching for like their coffee mug and the dog just runs up to them and does that. Like it's
Yeah.
a little like it depends on the situation. But it's like if a dog does that, what is its adoptability at that point? And, like, what was the circumstance? And then sometimes we even have to have that conversation, unfortunately, before I even bring the dog in, because if it comes into the facility and I can't handle it to take it back at all, and it's lunging at me or it's growling at me or it's so shut down, it's like peeing and pooping itself, and, like, it's going to be more stressful to possibly be able to rehab this dog before it even gets to a state where we can vaccinate to possibly put it up for adoption. Like, what is that stress worth it if it's, like, coming in, like, because usually like, coming into the shelter, there's a ton of pheromones, there's, like, a ton of fear pheromones just, like, in the air, so we do expect the dogs to at least be a little bit stressed. But if they're coming in and they're already that heightened and it's a lobby, how are we supposed to assume that this dog could be good in a home? And a lot of the times, like, you'll hear rescues and, like, "Oh, we have low euthanasia counts, we have all this." Most of the time, they are picking and choosing the dogs that they can intake, and if it's a dog like that, they just say no.
Yeah.
So, which unfortunately, like, that's how they keep their numbers down. A lot of people don't realize that, like, no kill shelters that, like, that are picky with the dogs that they take in, they just don't take them in. Like, that's
Mm.
why they're successful. That's why their numbers look good, because they don't take the shit, but we take the shit. And so it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
now we have this thing that is biting people, and now we have to let it sit for a certain amount of days before we can legally euthanize it in case the owners change their mind. And it's
yeah,
like, now, like, was that stress level worth it versus making that euthanasia decision while it's in the lobby? Which
yeah.
sucks. I just wanna say I do not like it. It sucks, but it's the
No, no,
reality.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I guess like one thing that a lot of the people who go like every dog can be saved, etc., etc., what they forget about is you as a shelter or a rescue group or whatever it may be, if you put a dog back into the environment, like back into the wild, so to speak, and that dog fucks someone up or kills someone, then you're accountable for that because you made the decision to say this dog is fine and then it killed someone, right? And so that is an actual accountability on the shelter or the rescue group that made that decision. And so you have to keep that in mind as well. It isn't as cut and clear as like, hey, when it's gone, it's not our problem anymore, which a lot of people think. Unfortunately, some rescue groups and shelters that I know of operate that way. Just lie to the people, get them out as quickly as possible, and don't answer phone calls anymore, right? Which is such a fucking horrible thing to do because that ruins other people's lives. It usually ends up getting the dog euthanized anyways. And yeah, it's chaos, but it's like, I feel like there are so many extreme positions on behavioral euthanasia. So it's good to have an actual conversation and go like, hey, there is nuance to this. There are things you need to understand. There is accountability. There is people potentially being put in danger, right? And we have to consider all of this before we try to save them all, so to speak. And
Yeah, I
like
think
you
a
said,
lot
it
of
sucks,
people yeah.
but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that don't it's really easy to say that from outside the window versus inside it and being in the building and seeing every day. And we have some really green people that come in that are like, "Oh, I work here because I love animals." And I'm like, "Damn, that's gonna change." Like, I love my job. I cannot say that enough. I love my job. But it comes with this shit. But I mean, I was just talking to, like, my supervisor about it earlier too, and it's like, yes, that does happen, but people make it so overblown, which it is a big deal. Like, I'm not saying that it's not. But people like that, like, come in with their animals, and then the next person through those doors is the perfect family that wants the longest term dog, that has a big backyard, that has a training plan set up, that has always wanted this specific dog, and it's looking for a 5-year-old husky. And we have a 5-year-old husky, and it's like, that makes it all the better to a certain point. Like, there is good and there's evil with it. Like, it's good, the bad, the ugly, and it gets really fucking ugly. But, I mean, I feel like it's kind of your perspective on it, because you can definitely there's some people that, like, have quit after the first euthanasia, like, announcement that, like, they're like, "What the fuck? I just walked this dog and this dog was fine." And yes, it was fine in the context of you walking it, but is it fine in its context of being alive right now and, like, its other behaviors? Because like, when you walked it, you didn't see another dog, did you? That would have been great, and if that dog was in a home, that might have been something that could be fixed, but it's not in a home, it's here, and it's shit, but I mean, I'm glad that, like, I think there's so many different, like, perspectives about it, and so I've had to learn to be very neutral and, like, learn everything and then just kind of make my own, like, "Okay, this is what I think," versus all of these different, like, left, right, sideways, sort of up and down different opinions of it that, like, "This all these people are wrong. This is the only right way. All these people are wrong. This is the only right way." And it's like, okay, there's so much more that happens when it comes to making those decisions. It's not just, like, to kill or not to kill. It is, like, so much more than just that. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I mean, that is a decision that's being made. So I understand why people think that, but
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's like you say, like, and I totally get it. It's like someone volunteers at the shelter, then a dog gets euthanized and they can't go back to it. I mean, that happens in dog training as well. If you're a dog trainer, chances are you're going to get bitten at some point, right? You
Mhm.
are going to get bitten, and it might be a bad bite. And a lot of people don't actually come back to dog training after they get bitten because they see the animal in the dog and they freak out and they just have trouble overcoming that. So I totally get that. I've only been hospitalized once by a dog, but I have been attacked pretty badly a couple of times. Um, and you get cautious for a while. You kind of take a step back and you go like, "Fuck, I really don't want that to happen again." But
Oh,
then
yeah.
you either process it and you work through it and you get back into it, or you kind of have to walk away from it. Um, so yeah, look, it is shit, but I think it's important to talk about the shitty side of dog training as well, because a lot of people, especially in the social media driven world, everything is just happy go lucky and look, everything can be fixed and everyone's happy. And that is just not how life works, unfortunately. All right. It's been a bit of a dark episode, so I want to finish with something funny. Now, as you know, I do this thing called Reddit is retarded. And oh my God, my thing just disappeared. So,
Oh, I'm
um,
excited.
Reddit,
Oh, I'm excited for this. Okay.
so, so, okay, this one is more funny than it is actual something that we can kind of help this person with. But look, I'd love to hear your thoughts, anyways. But I'm so sorry, it kind of went out of it. Now I just need to find it again. Yes, here we go. Okay, so this one, God, this is probably one of the dumbest and funniest ones that I've ever read, and it is obviously in Puppy 101 on Reddit.
Oh, of course it is. Oh, I love this. I love this one. Okay.
Uh,
I'm like, what
and the
layer of
caption
bullshit are we on? Okay, yeah.
and the caption is "Help!" exclamation mark. Puppy watched hypnosis video. Okay, I'm
I'm
legit
so
just reading this.
confused.
I'm reading this
Okay,
off
okay.
Reddit. All right,
Okay,
so
I'm
everyone
locked
stay
in
with
right
me.
now. I'm so locked in. Okay, yeah.
Help! Double exclamation mark. My 1-year-old Cavapoo watched 6 hypnosis videos on YouTube back to back and spent maybe like 20 minutes looking at these things moving spirals. Very intense flashing lights. Will she be okay? Her behavior seems fine, but she's now scared of my phone. So-
I just like I have that idea pop into my head. Like, you never know what's going on in someone's house right now. And I just
I
picture
know, I know.
this poor little cockapoo just like locked in like an iPad kid. Just like, like, I stole my mom's phone and I'm just like in it. Like they open YouTube for the first time. Why is okay? I have so many questions.
And it's so funny because the way that it's written, it sounds like the dog just took the phone and opened. And we'll get. I want to get into some of the comments because they are
Wait, is this
fucking
satire? Or
hilarious.
is this like for real? I
It
feel like this
is,
has to be satire.
from what I can tell, it's for real because she's replied to many of the
Oh my
comments, the
god.
original post about. So. Okay, so one comment says, number 1, she'll be fine. Number 2, how the fuck did your dog watch hypnosis videos? And someone replies to that saying probably was watching them on her phone. And the person replies again, that explains so very little. And I love this comment. This is fucking comedy gold. How did the dog get the phone? How did it get on YouTube? How did it navigate to hypnosis videos? Why hypnosis videos? Why so many in a row? Was OP watching hypnosis videos and left them playing? Why? What kind of hypnosis videos? How did original poster not realize they had left 20 minutes of hypnosis videos playing? Why was the dog just sitting there watching them?
I have, yeah, that's everything. That's all of my questions. Also, okay, this is like, I'm going way too deep into this. I'm making this like so literal in my brain. But you know, those home hypnosis videos have like a bunch of different colors and stuff. The dog can't even see that shit. It's just seeing like gray and blue and like some yellows and
unless
stuff
it
too.
is the black and white spiraling.
It could be the
things,
black
though.
and white ones. Yeah, I'm like, what?
And that is actually
what
like,
genre? I need links. I need links. It's for scientific research.
There is actually one comment here that I'll get to in a minute, which has kind of brought up an okay point in this.
Okay.
But I mean, this isn't really a thing to discuss because it's just retarded. But that is just Reddit, and I think we needed some fun at the end of this situation.
Oh no,
But so someone replies to all the questions saying, OP was watching and fell into hypnotic trance. That's when the dog wandered over to see what was going on, and they're both now lying on the floor in a sucked in hypnotized trance. And I love that visual. But yeah, there's just a lot of funny comments. But one person, and let me just find this, because one person did have a good point, and that kind of, yeah, so here we go. Since the jokes are all covered, I'll bite and give it a serious answer. I could see something like this triggering compulsive shadow light chasing behaviors like pointer lasers can. And that is actually a valid point, because if the dog is sitting and watching these things, and look, for anyone listening, you should never use a laser pointer with a dog. You can use them with cats because for some reason, cats don't get trapped in the predatory chase mode. But for a dog, if you're using a laser pointer, it can actually create really bad compulsive chasing behaviors because the dog never gets to catch, so to speak, the red light and finish the predatory sequence. So that, I mean, that is a point that is worth discussing, I guess. But I guess just for an easy one, do you think the dog's going to be fine? The hypnotized 1-year-old Cavapoo?
You know, that's a really good question. I think it might need to go to a vet behaviorist and be put on medication for the rest of its life and see, you know, some more trainers. And I think it might need a therapist. You know, this is very traumatized. You traumatized it. It's traumatized.
But definitely, but it definitely cannot see a hypnotherapist.
Oh, absolutely not. That'd be like that'd be like its worst fear. That's exposure therapy. It's flooding.
Well,
we're flooding it.
Yeah, I guess that's flooding. Yeah. I guess at that point
so
it
funny.
would be.
I actually want to go back to the point that you just made with the laser pointer because I love that. The cats can actually. It's not the same predatory response that like dogs get from like not being able to catch it, but cats can get a little crazy with it. And if you don't like, usually like I train it for the staff at my work, if you're doing a laser pointer, always end on like their food bowl or like a bunch of treats or like something like that, because what can happen is the cat can get overstimulated because it's not able to finish that sequence, but it just produces in a different way. It's not going to be like chasing over shadows or anything, but it can get kind of, I've seen it a lot with like not a ton of cats, but the cats that are more prone to overstimulation, they can like get mad and they like will go after you, or like if it ends on a blanket and you just turn the light off, it can like beat the shit out of the blanket. And it's like they can have that. But I just want to touch on that. And also one of the things that we do at the shelter that I've actually had to like tell volunteers not to do with the dogs, because some people have tried to do it with the puppies, is for kittens, and for especially kittens, there's like YouTube videos that you can play of like fish like swimming around, and it's for cats to play with on your phone, so you can like have one of those videos up. And we've done it with like kittens before when we're doing like a kitten play session and like trying to get them more used to things. We'll just set up one of our phones with like the video playing, and they'll go over to our phone and like swat at it and like play with it and stuff. But I've had to stop people from doing that with dogs because it can cause that. Like I've seen a dog that like gets really upset, and it's like and also, why are you doing with the dog? Do you not care about your phone? But like to a certain extent of like, um, they do get mad, and it's like, okay, you can't like. There's so many different things between like the species, but like still so much like the same with their little brains. But like how their predatory works is like so crazy to me. But yeah, no, I think that dog
So
is going to
yeah,
be just
interesting.
fine. But
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
I mean, it might be dizzy now. I'm sure dizzy after if you see like one of those spiral videos and it's just like
Yeah,
staring
yeah.
at a wall and it's like it's seizing now. No, it's fine.
I just love the fact that she ends with her behavior seems fine, but she's scared of the phone. I'm like, okay, I don't think
Shit,
that's
I would
linked
also be
with
what
the
also I
hypnosis,
wanna
but
know I wanna know what she's doing with the phone. Like, is the lady, like, going over, it's like, "Look at my phone! Watch another video! This'll undo
I
it!"
don't.
Or, like, is the
Do
dog
you
just,
know
like,
what?
barking at the
I'll
phone now?
send
I'm
you.
like, "What is that?"
Do you know what? I'll send you the actual thread because it is hilarious. Just
That's
read
so
through the whole
funny.
thing. But I wanted to end this conversation on something little bit light and funny. But I think that was a really good point that you brought up, though. If you do laser pointers and stuff, end them in a food bowl or on a toy or something that
Mhm.
the animal can actually like finish the predatory sequence. But still, to anyone listening, do not fucking do it with dogs because they can go mental over it. And evidently so, apparently can cats.
Yeah, it not as much. It kind of presents differently, and it's usually just more like they get mad. They get upset, but they don't go like crazy over it. But yeah, it's especially with dogs because I've seen it like every now and then we have a dog that comes in that like I can tell that someone did that because like I'll be holding my phone in a certain way or like I'll be holding a clipboard or something, and like a light will like reflect and it like
Yeah.
zooms across the ground really quick and that dog like fucking locks in and I'm like, holy shit, and there's not really much that you can work on with that. Like there is some stuff, but like in the context of a shelter and like that sort of thing, like there's not really I can't really do
Yeah.
much with that. It's just like, damn, that sucks. Don't reflect light, I guess.
Super, super compulsive light and shadow chasing. Holy shit. That
Yeah.
is a tough thing to deal with. So yeah, just don't put your dog in that situation. That would be my advice. But
Yeah,
here
we
we are.
actually at our retail center because we do have some items for sale. We do have laser pointers, and in the fucking advertisement, it has a dog that's like running after the laser,
Oh
and I'm like,
God.
I wanna kill these people. It's like I wanna murder them. Euthanize people, not the dogs. Like I
I'm inclined to agree to a certain degree.
like we make
Uh,
so many jokes that it's like we need another pandemic, but we need this one to like target only the stupid ones. And it's like I I,
wouldn't
I
that be
hate
good?
making those jokes. There's so many like we try people don't realize like too it's so like dark humor is such a good way to cope, and like you'll never meet more funny people than people that work in an animal shelter because everyone hates people, but like we all like the animals, but we're like, damn, people suck, we just use this. It's like it's so funny.
And
But
but
yeah.
then you also have good people that come into the shelter to pick them up. So I guess you have a little bit
Yeah,
of
it's
both
like
worlds kind
not
of
not
thing.
them, they're okay, but
Yeah,
few and far between. It's like, fuck you, you're okay. Fuck you."
yeah. All right. Sky Fon S. I'm not going to try to say your last name again.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for jumping on. Nearly 2.5 hours. Holy crap.
Oh, yay.
This went on for a while, but I think it was a really good conversation. I think we touched on some difficult things, but important things. And yeah, thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah,
Sky's the
thank
limit
you.
pet services. Do you have a website? Do you have Facebook? Do you have any way people can find you if they're looking for help with their dog?
I have deleted all social media and I go by referrals only because I'm very busy right now. But
Perfect.
I
I wish
log
I could do
on
that.
to yeah, I don't make money from people. I get paid more, and a lot of people, especially with grooming, I get a lot of like the aggressive dogs. So I get the dogs that are banned other places. So I don't really have to advertise. I just go to a groom shop and I'm like, "Hey, the dogs that bite people, send them to me." And then they come to me and I'm like, evil, I love it. And then I could charge whatever I want because I'm the only one that can do them. Not really. I charge reasonable prices, but you know, it's like I'm the only
It's
one that can
funny.
fix you.
It's funny because I actually wanted to talk about the aggressive dog grooming and stuff, but you know what? Maybe in the future at some point. We just
Yeah, no, I'd love
we had
to.
too much fun talking about the shelter.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. I've never met more people or met more dogs that are worse with grooming than the ones that are owned. Actually, the most of the ones that are in the shelter are like pretty chillin' with grooming or like understand it to a certain level, I feel like, or have like some sort of brain there versus people or like dogs that are owned are like evil sometimes. And it's just because they've
Yeah.
gotten away with so much and they've never like had that sort of stress. And so now they're put in a stressful environment. It's like, I'm gonna eat you. And it's like, no, you're not. But yeah, no, we could talk. That's a conversation for a different time. But that's like the short of it.
I
Um,
reckon that'd be a
yeah,
good conversation actually for another time. Because it's
yeah.
something I wanted to get into, but yeah, time just
I
went away
think
from us.
I do have an Instagram. It is. I don't remember off the top of my head. It is either. Hold on. I'm looking it up. It is Sally Sky Loren. I am on it maybe once a year, if I'm lucky.
All right.
I
Go and say
make
hi
my
to
yearly
Sky
post.
once a year.
Yeah, it's SALLYSKYLAUREN. But yeah,
Cool.
I will see your message at some point. Maybe not anytime soon, but I apologize. I don't have my life together enough to have a website or anything yet. I'm just like, if you need me, don't. It's kind of
Bro,
my
you're
circumstance.
22 years old. You have plenty of time to get this shit sorted out.
Yeah,
Trust me.
I know enough. I get by.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
No,
It's been so
my
fun.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's been a good conversation for sure. And I'm sure there will be another conversation in the future. All right. To everyone listening, thank you for sticking with us for fucking nearly 2.5 hours. But now you all know, go train your fucking dogs. Goodbye.
Yay.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Beastly Talks. I hope you found it interesting and that you'll join me for the next one as well. If you like this podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it so that more people can hear about it. Or if you think this particular episode would benefit a family member, friend or colleague, be sure to share it with them directly. You can follow me on social media at Viking Dog Trainer on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for your support and keep training your dog.